Yeah, there we go. You are looking live.
There's only one way to wake up in the morning.
How the heck are you?
Yep, that's it. Miller
Really upset that my daughter will not read one fish, two fish, red fish, blue fish on Twitch because I needed content. That's what we've come to.
and Moulton.
Well, we need to explain to her the pilot program, and we need 25 hours of programming a week. So you need to deliver your 12 minutes a day, 5 times a week, because that's an hour, honey.
Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
All guests appear on the Goldberg Noon Abraham hotline. Goldberg-law.com.
Yes! Oh, I like
It's up to you now. It's up to you.
I like it.
Now, the best local sports show this town has ever heard. Here's Miller and Moulton.
You're live.
How the heck are you? Miller and Moulton on this first Friday in June, the 5th of the month. Thanks so much for being with us. Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio, streaming once again, foxsportsfm.com, broadcasting live once again on the Miller and Moulton YouTube and Twitch TV channels. How are you on this fine Friday?
I'm very good. How you doing?
I'm okay. I'm a little, this has been a little harder than I thought it would be this week, quite frankly. I joked, sitting on my you-know-what for 3 hours and talking, how hard can it be? But it's actually taken a little more out of me than I thought, and I got to go get some blood work today, so I have to fast for that. So you're getting me having not eaten in 12 hours.
Ooh-wee.
Yeah.
And on any day, that's a dangerous proposition. But given the current situation of events for one David Moulton, that is downright scary.
Right.
I will refrain from talking about things that we ingest throughout this entire show. David, I usually do. I usually bring up some things. I'm a little fired up today because a friend of mine called. And I said earlier this week, we were going to go. Before all this happened, I was planning on going on vacation this week, and that got canceled. But my wife kept the days off. She's like, I'm not going back to work. I already marked myself off. To hell with this. And we're doing something crazy tonight. We're going out with another couple. We have a
now.
We have a babysitter.
Uh-oh.
Ha ha ha.
Look out. Look out.
Because the other couple was going to come over for dinner, and he says, well, what about, think your wife would want to go out? And I said, I think she would. And I mean, if you would have seen the look on my wife's face when I said, what about going out and getting a babysitter? And I mean, her eyes got like my daughter's when she gets a present. She was so excited about ditching the kid for a night and going out and have a little fun.
Well, and isn't it phase 2?
Phase 2, baby. Clubs and bars, here we come.
Movie theaters also at 50% capacity. So, yeah, 100% outdoors at restaurants, 50% inside at restaurants. So,
seats
we're opening
at
up.
the bar, David. Bar stools are back, baby.
There you go.
You can belly up again. America, we're bellying up in Florida. Shot in a beer day. I don't care if it's official National Shot in a Beer Day. It should be Shot in a Beer Day.
Oh, like the sounds of that.
Right?
Like the thought of that.
Right.
My goodness. 479-5551 is how you can chime into the show. 479-5551 on the Williamson Brothers Marine and Roofing text and talk line. And if you are watching on our YouTube and or Twitch TV channels, particularly the Twitch TV channel, it is interactive. Feel free to chime in. Appreciate the kind words every morning from a few of the folks that are watching. And, they say I look okay and sound okay. And, well, that's good to hear. That is good to hear.
Yes and yes. Skinny D is his new name.
Right.
You only can call him that in the Twitch chat room. Anywhere else, it's not acceptable. But from 6 to 9 in the Twitch chat room, you are allowed to refer to David as Skinny D.
Wife and mother loved that yesterday when they heard it. My mother heard it live. I told my wife after the show. All right. I've gone from Biggie D to Skinny D, all in a month. So there you have it. But it'll just to give you a warning, though, it'll probably get progressively worse with me throughout the show. I'll need that Snickers more and more as the show goes on.
Oh, no, this is, I worry, the routine that we have gotten into, and obviously by now, if you're listening, particularly at 6 o'clock in the morning, David was in the hospital for a week. He's had cancer, had a kidney removed, and we're, as a team, David especially, and his family moving forward, I'm offering assistance from afar. I have not been let anywhere near the house. I've offered to bring Starbucks for the wife in the garage, drop it off, and leave it. By the way, because you can't drive.
Going to today.
You can drive today. Okay, you got.
The doctor said, don't drive unless you have to, and I have to today.
Okay, so that's what I was concerned with, because your wife was ahead of this country as far as the coronavirus goes.
Correct.
By about a month. That's all.
Well, certainly 2 weeks.
Easily.
I mean, she was over a week ahead of the NBA shutting down for Rudy Gobert.
Right. But mentally, she was 2 or 3 weeks ahead of that, too.
Oh,
she was very concerned. And then when I say a month, I don't think I'm that far off. So she's had to take you to a few doctor's appointments.
Mm-hmm.
I know that you're not really eating food, so you're not required to go to the grocery store for much more than grapes and green beans right now. That's not too difficult. How are we getting the food supply to the Moulton home?
No, my wife's doing it. And, that's how dramatic this is, because my wife, who vowed to not go to a grocery store probably for the rest of 2020 before I was, befallen with kidney cancer and the surgery and all that. And so now it is my wife who is twice a week making short trips, getting about 3 days worth of food every single time she goes.
Wow.
And we've got about 6 staples that we're eating right now.
Right.
Looking to expand over the weekend. That's my project over the weekend, to see whether or not I can expand the food supply.
Well, good to know that your wife's a lot like you in this regard, is that you do not accept help very readily, don't even really like it. You'd prefer to do everything in life yourself. It looks as if the wife is, because there's been plenty of people other than John and I that I'm sure that have offered, and your wife has said, yeah, I don't need any of you.
Well, but it's mostly because of the coronavirus.
Oh, I know.
All right. That's why my wife has said to everybody, really appreciate it, but no, stay away from the house. It's just matter of factly, stay away from the house. And, my wife wanted to quarantine me for 14 days. I've only been home from the hospital for 10. As far as my wife's concerned, I'm still a nuclear reactor for another 5 days. So, I'm glowing in the dark and all that. So, no, it's still going to take a little while. We're going to have somebody visit us in a couple of weeks. All right. That's when, maybe there's a chance come mid-month, all of a sudden, the Moulton household has phase 1 opening, if you know what I mean. Florida may be at phase 2. Mark, I'm hoping that sometime in the next couple of weeks that the Moulton household can reach phase 1.
Hey, David, you guys reach a phase, I'll be proud of you. I don't care what phase it is.
Right. I'll take phase 0.4.
Right.
Whatever. Whatever I can get at this point. Absolutely. Put my face up against the window and wave at you. That would be fantastic. So...
Very fired up about the comments on Twitch. I just got compared to Dustin Hoffman in The Graduate for all this hair.
This is long for you.
Oh, and it's not going away anytime soon. My wife just shakes her head at me around the house now. She just looks at me. She goes, you look terrible. And she goes, but I know this is fun for you, so whatever. Do whatever you want. It's good.
Well, it's nice when your relationship's at a point that the spouse can look at the other and go, you look terrible. Well, thank you, honey.
Yep.
And I love you too.
That's where we're at. Took us a while to get here, David, but it's a joy to be here.
Okay, well, good. Hopefully,
Just takes a couple.
Ride this escalator for about 10 years.
Exactly. Just takes a couple of days off for the wife to tell you look terrible and smile back at her, and you move on with your day. Well, in the baseball hour yesterday, again, baseball told the players told the other side, you look terrible. This seems to be the ongoing discussion between the players and the owners. Once a day, someone makes a statement that calls the other one, Jane, you ignorant slut.
Yeah, basically it's you suck the next day. No. You suck the next day. No. You suck. And so late yesterday, it was the players, quote, resoundingly, unquote, rejecting the owner's plan.
They have the thesaurus out to try to find new words to tell the other side that they suck.
Right, and that we are unified. It's not unanimously. It's resoundingly that they rejected the owner's plan.
This has every bit of an 8th grade breakup to it. I mean, this is a middle school. This isn't even a high school relationship, David. This is a middle school relationship. That's how childish this appears publicly.
Yes, and to me, it's like right before prom. And you guys had already, purchased the dress and the tux and all that. And, you've known one another a while, and no matter what, you were going to go. And there was no way that anybody could have envisioned that you two are not going to prom together. And now you're about an email and a phone call away from, no, we're not even going to go to prom together. No, hell with you. No, not going to do it. You suck. Have I told you sucked?
Because I can tell you 10 or 12 different ways.
Yep. So now I contend, believe it or not, that people will just yawn and move right on for Major League Baseball. I really believe that. And then, baseball. Now, what they will need to do, though, is they will need to make the offseason fruitful. They need to then get to the issues that are going to prevent them from having a CBA after 2021. That I don't think Mark Baseball cannot play this year or play a joke of a season. I mean, an absolute joke. I mean, honestly, Mark, would anybody consider if they play a 50-game regular season, even if they have a somewhat expanded playoffs, are you going to consider whichever team wins the World Series a legitimate World Series champion? Even if it was your team. Honestly, I'm a Mets fan, essentially in my lifetime, because I wasn't 4 when they won in 69. The Mets have won one World Series essentially in my lifetime. All right, if the Mets were to win the 2020 World Series, I would think it's a joke.
At how many games, David? If they played 81, 82 games, is that a joke then?
No, it's not.
But
especially
the 50-game season
expanded playoff. The 50 games? Right. Are you kidding me?
No. Just David, it was just a question. Just making sure I understood where you were completely.
50 games? Come on now. It is. It's a joke. I mean, Mark, it's the equivalent of 5 NFL games as a regular season. 5. And then we're going to have the playoffs and the Super Bowl. 5. I mean, come on. Would anybody consider the team that wins the Super Bowl that year a legitimate Super Bowl champion?
Well, and particularly, just go back and go to Pro Football Reference and start looking up standings after Week 5.
Right.
Think of how many times the Patriots wouldn't have made the playoffs after 5 games.
Right. I mean, what was the one year the Dolphins started 3-0?
Right.
A few years back with Tannehill. Yeah, I mean, come on. Now, 1982, we had a 9-game regular season in the NFL. Nobody puts an asterisk next to that World Series, Super Bowl championship for the Redskins. They don't. It was a strike year, and they came back, and they got as many games in as they could. They had an expanded playoffs. They put 8 teams in from each conference. 1 played 8, 2 played 7, etc. So in theory, you had to win an extra playoff game, and people were okay with it. I mean, that was the year that the Redskins beat the Dolphins. in the Super Bowl. Nobody had a problem with it. It's like, okay, we made the best we could out of this year.
I will tell you this, David. Had there been full-blown ESPN sports talk radio, people would have made a bigger deal about it then. We were more comfortable just rolling with things in 1982 than we are now.
And the NFL was not the dominant number one sport in the country. In fact, in 1982, you could argue baseball may have just by a nose still been ahead of it. Just by a slim margin, that baseball was number one and the NFL was 1A.
And we're in the glory years of NCAA basketball. The NBA is the beginning of Bird and Magic. So it's just a different sports atmosphere at that time.
But a 50-game Major League Baseball regular season, I mean, honestly, I won't even pay attention to it. You'll have a hard time getting me to include it in the starting five.
Wait a minute. Scores, baseball scores, box scores, the possibility.
It's a joke. It's a joke. Do you know what I will probably focus on if this is what we end up with? I will focus on the teams that we thought had no chance, and you know what, of ever contending to make the playoffs. But in a 50-game season, I mean, the Marlins could steal a playoff spot in a 50-game regular season.
Well, what was it? I kept going back to it last year. Were the Tigers like 19-21 or 18-20 or something like that?
Right. 40 games into the season.
40 games into the season.
Were 500.
Right, they were 2 games beneath 500. They ended up losing over 100 games. I mean, they went like 5-60 after that. So the good news is, David, you'll have other sports to talk about in your starting five by the time, if and when, a pathetic baseball season comes along. Because the NBA, they're figuring it out. NHL, they're heading back to camp here in Monday, I believe. So the PGA starts next week. We've been racing. We'll continue to race. Training camps will be open by the time you have to worry about a 50-game baseball season in the NFL. So I don't think you probably will have a much easier time bypassing baseball in the starting five because there will be plenty of other things to be talking about in the sports world if and when they ever get their season going.
You know, like I just looked up June 4th, 2019, just for the heck of it, as to what the baseball standings were last year, almost a year ago to the day. Now, first off, they had played right around 60 games. 60 games. But, you know, you had the Phillies in first, with the Braves a close second. All right. You did have the Astros, who were running away with the West, and you had Texas, who was maybe in position for a wild card. The Twins had the huge lead, remember? And, you had the Yankees with a slight lead again over the Rays. You know, Cubs and Brewers were tight. Dodgers already had a big lead, but you know who would have made the playoffs in a 50-game regular season last year in the National League? Colorado Rockies.
My Rockies that I had picked to make the playoffs a year ago, and they took a nosedive in the second half.
Ended up with the third worst record in the National League.
Yep.
Would have made the playoffs last year in a 50-game regular season. I mean, 50 games. Once again, it equates to a 5-game NFL regular season. 5. A 4-game, at most, a 4-game college football season. I mean, come on. I mean, how much would we really pay attention? If that's what the NFL and college football came at us for whatever the reason.
If it was a 4-game college football season, Wisconsin would win the national title damn near every year.
Hell, Vandy has started some years 4-0. But you know what I'm getting at here.
Oh, no.
To me, it'll be insulting. It really will. It'll be like, you guys are pathetic. Absolutely pathetic. That this is the best that you could do. And I'm not going to waste my time with childish things. That's the way I would look at Major League Baseball. And that I really think they would be better off just canceling the season and starting to negotiate a new CBA and coming to a deal the way that the NFL and their players came to a deal a year early and putting a 10-year extension on top of the final year of their deal. Because the other thing baseball can't do is have a debacle of a 2020, enter 2021 with everybody knowing, well, better enjoy this year because we're going to have a strike or a lockout as soon as this sucker's over. I mean, really? Why, as a baseball fan, never mind a casual sports fan, why, as a baseball fan, am I going to get emotionally invested in a sport if this is what you're laying out for me? I mean, imagine owning a business and trying to sell the employees on, well, here's the deal. All right, we're going to come back. We're going to have a debacle.
You're going to work a third of the time.
Right.
That's right. Instead of normal, we're going to try to get the same effect out of everybody working a third of the time.
Right.
Then we're going to go like gangbusters for a year. We're going to work our tails off like we always have done.
And then we're going to shut down.
Right, and we don't know for how long.
Right. And by the way, I don't like you and you don't like me. So what do you say? Are you on board?
Miller and Moulton, we like one another.
We do.
By the end of the show, we don't know if David's going to like anybody today because he's fasting currently. And it has nothing to do with you or me. No. It has everything to do with lack of caloric intake.
I'm apologizing right now to our listeners. It's not your fault.
For the 8 o'clock hour.
Yes, I am.
I think you're just going to have to do Robin Williams. It's not your fault.
Nick has renamed the show, by the way. Miller and Moulton is now Sasquatch and Skinny D.
I don't think this is Sasquatch.
No, I don't think so either. It's not even Grizzly Adams.
No.
You're not even ready to fish in the Bering Sea yet, but you're working on it.
Trying.
You're working on it.
I'm trying.
Miller and Moulton on this Friday. Thanks for being with us. Hope your week's gone okay. We're Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
Receiving. Over.
Alexa, play Fox Sports FM on TuneIn.
LeBron has shown his greatness. Kevin Durant's a better player.
Sorry, I don't know that one.
Smart speaker.
Are we cheering for idiots? What's going on?
Sounds more like a dumb speaker, am I right?
You're an idiot. Nice job.
Get Southwest Florida sports talk delivered to your speaker.
This is easy.
Just say,
Need a poll question.
Hello.
Play Fox Sports FM on TuneIn.
Finally, something
What's
worthwhile.
the number of apologies that you're required to give in one day?
Marketplace is sponsored by Kronos, helping businesses attract, retain, and engage employees through cloud-based human capital management. Kronos.com.
Thank you for catching that on the lake.
Let's face it, these are stressful times. New routines, the constant bombardment of bad news, and trying to keep you and your family safe all the time. It's Frank for Center for Men's Health. During these stressful times, your mood is so critical, and nothing's more important to a guy's mood than testosterone. The single greatest issue for guys with low T.
What's the most number of times you've ever apologized for something?
Many are grumpy when they start. And
if you'd have done that apology, we had a little more. I could have said, speaking of apologies, David will. I should have just said after. Speaking of apologies, David will talk Drew Brees next in the starting five.
Yep. I've been a patient at C4MH.com for a couple of years, and recently I've lost 20 pounds.
I was right.
Now I have the energy to work out from home, and that'll put you in a good mood too. C4MH.com's express treatment plan is convenient, affordable, and above all safe. And with locations
yesterday when he apologized, you found it in our last hour.
Well, he did a second one.
Oh, I know. Oh, I know.
And we had someone text us that basically says they've lost all respect for Drew Brees because he apologized.
They continue to occur as a result. Now,
I can't even answer that person on Twitter. I don't even know what to say.
Damage that occurred to their tile roof. Now, whether it's new leaks, cracked, unsecured tiles, these roofs are living on borrowed time.
Hungry D.
Tile roofs,
I like Hungry D.
Design are susceptible to lift in powerful storms like
I like the Dustin Hoffman. I mean, I think it's that big flip, right? Is that where you're going with the Dustin Hoffman? Because he had a really good side part in The Graduate.
Years later.
I have one word for you.
Roofing Innovations.
Plastic.
A great roofing company to inspect your roof for any damage.
Movie is beyond great.
Oh, tremendous.
It is just beyond
Holds
great.
Up
yes,
very well.
It really does.
50-plus-year-old movie.
And there aren't many that do.
Process right away.
Nope.
Just go to cathedralroofingnaples.com.
Heck, that may play out in this year more than ever before, if you know what I mean, with the whole getting a job coming out of college thing.
That's for sure.
Streaming 24/7 at foxsportsfm.com.
David, I have 3 chat rooms open right now. I have the Twitch chat room, I have the chat line, and I've opened YouTube just in case anybody in there says something.
Dan Martineau here, owner of DR Martineau Roofing.
Got some, my buddy Greg Anderson made some woodworkings.
Yeah.
In which he made our logo.
Someone sent it to me. I saw the picture of it.
Yeah, and he also did a How the Heck Are You?
Yeah.
So I'm going to put them up this weekend. Just trying to figure out where they go.
Do you need, I don't really think you need to be doing that. No offense.
It's a hammer and a nail.
How much does that thing weigh?
I don't know.
Well, there you go.
It's more than 10 pounds. But we'll see.
Don't make me text your wife right now.
God,
Don't make me text your wife.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
She's already texted me this morning. She thinks she's Ruth from Ozark.
My wife does. For those that are listening on the Twitch chat room, my wife is a minister's kid. My wife doesn't curse. All right. My wife has played the part her whole life. My wife has become Ruth from Ozark in the last 4 months. FMF constantly and is enjoying it, is realizing what we've all known for 20, 30, 40 years, that cursing feels good. Yes.
Ever talk to my wife? Because even and your wife are very similar in that they don't. You're hard. I don't know if I've ever heard my wife swear.
Well, I hadn't heard it much until about 3-4 months ago, and now she is on a roll. On a roll.
Yeah, Johnny Mac's right. Start standing up earlier. You got to stand up more. Everybody's paying attention to you during the break. Make sure you stand up a lot in your breaks today.
Okay. Here's the deal. I appreciate your concern. B, you're right. C, I'm starving. Today's not the day. All right? I'm just letting you know. You're right. You're right.
Is Miller and Moulton.
You're live.
As we approach 28 minutes past the hour, it's already getting contentious during the commercial breaks in the Miller and Moulton Twitch TV chat room. Sign up for the Miller and Moulton YouTube and Twitch TV channels. I threw out a disclaimer at the top of the show. I'm fasting. I have to have some blood work done right after the show, and so I haven't eaten in a while. And, well, needless to say, I mean, I may be Skinny D instead of Biggie D, but I love me some food, and I don't miss many meals.
And he is Hungry D today.
Yes, I am.
This was one of the better commercial breaks in the history of this show. Because it is interactive on Twitch. Mm-hmm. And we're kind of going back and forth, and it's mostly David and I talking. And David has said during the breaks over the course of the week is that I got to stand up more. Because by the end of the show, David's been in a little bit of pain. And if you're watching on Twitch or YouTube, typically for the good, the bad, and the ugly, you don't see David. He's just kind of standing up somewhere in and around the camera area. And it's because he's in pain. And so Johnny Mac on Twitch said, you better start standing up earlier today. I said, boy, that's a great point, David. Johnny said, you said you've got to stand up more. That makes you feel better. So make sure. And in the look on his face, he's like, it was as close as he told everybody that they were number one with the actual words. And he bit his lip and he said, you're right. Today's not the day. Today is not the day.
I said, I have 3 things to say. 1, appreciate your concern. 2, you're right. You are 100% right. 3, not today. Keep it to your damn self today. All right. I'm hungry. I'm about ready to bite the head off a bird. All right.
We'll get back to our snarky selves with you on Monday, David. How about that? Did get this text in regards to baseball. I would love 50 games. Strong arms. Keep the starters in longer. The game is always bigger than the outside crap. Showcase Scherzer, Trout, Strasburg, Judge. Records were wrecked by Bonds, McGuire, Sosa, and Clemens. The game is bigger than all of that. So that is at least a dissenting voice to what we were talking about in our open today.
I'll say this. If the arms were in shape, I would agree with you. Now, it could be perfect in that the starters may work themselves up and they'll be in peak shape for the playoffs. And you could have, if you have a short regular season, that by the playoffs, the teams that have dominant starting pitching that could go very deep into games and not be as reliant on the bullpen. Interesting. The game is resilient.
All right. I just think that, first off, this was a great opportunity to bring in the casual fan. I mean, the NBA is not going to start up till July 31st. Hockey's not going to start up much before that. Obviously, we don't have football until September at the earliest. I mean, baseball, you had a golden opportunity here. Golden. You could have had a month. Where you were basically it.
To a starving American fan base. To a starving worldwide sports fan base. But instead, well, you've decided to be baseball. With that being said, it is time now for
the Starting Five. 5 big stories that you need to know. This is Miller and Moulton Starting 5. Fox Sports Radio and FoxSportsFM.com.
Well, NBA Board of Governors voted 29-1 to approve 22 teams heading to Orlando. They'll do so in mid-July. The season will resume on July 31st. All 22 teams will play 8 regular season games to finish the regular season. Then the playoffs will begin. Game 7 of the NBA Finals, Mark, could take place as late as October 12th.
That is the night of what? Chargers and
Saints, I believe.
Saints, Monday Night Football.
So there was Adam Silver misspoke yesterday. He came out late in the day and said, some of our coaches may not be allowed to coach when we resume in Orlando because, well, the coronavirus hits those that are 65 and older much harder than it does that are under the age of 65. And the NBA has, I believe, 3 head coaches who are 65 and older: Alvin Gentry, Greg Popovich, and Mike D'Antoni. And so 2 of the 3 are represented by the same agency, and they felt it was a bit of discrimination. And so they kind of leaned on the commissioner, and the commissioner said, maybe I spoke a little too soon. But 29-1 was the vote. Do you know which team voted against this plan? The Portland Trailblazers.
Why?
I think it's because they don't feel the 8 regular season games is enough time to, get back in it and that sort of deal. I think they wanted to play a full, rest of the regular season.
Right. Because that's what we need.
The WNBA is likely going to follow the same calendar as the NBA. They're also going to stay in Florida, Mark. Reports are they're going to be at IMG Academy in Bradenton. And they're going to play a 24-game regular season, and it also will start in late July and head through pretty much September, and then they'll have a couple rounds of their playoffs. Drew Brees apologized yesterday, Mark.
A couple of times.
Right. Morning and night.
It was the only apology tour that took place twice in the same day, David.
He, a lot of quotes attributed to his apology, but the biggest one is, quote, "I completely missed the mark," unquote. And so Drew Brees trying to, I don't know if walk back is the right phrase, but trying to say he was wrong with what he had said in a Yahoo interview on Wednesday, in which he reiterated his comments from 4 years ago in terms of his thoughts on the anthem and that he would never kneel during it and that he views it as a patriotism, flag, military issue. And it brought about a lot of consternation around the NFL and particularly from some of his teammates. How about Jake Fromm's little day yesterday?
Holy cow.
So Jake Fromm, now, can you help me out here? You and I text a decent amount. You're not actually on the phone as much as other people, as much as I am. But, there are times when you and I text a lot. And we've got a text history that goes back, over a decade. But in order for our text history to be made public, doesn't one of the two of us have to make it public?
I think so. But I don't know if there are ways to get after someone's text records. I don't.
Right. So Jake Fromm yesterday had a text conversation with a friend of his from a little over a year ago that was made public. in which they were talking about guns. And Jake said that guns were not a good thing, and said that they should only be made available to, and I quote, elite white people, unquote.
Yep, that's the quote, David.
And so Jake had to answer to that yesterday. And when you're, what, a fifth-round pick?
Right.
Right. I mean, these are the type of things that get you,
And he said he didn't say guns are not good. He said guns are good. Just make them very expensive so only elite white people can get them.
There you go. So there you go. So that was Jake Fromm's day yesterday, and that'll serve him well, I'm sure, in training camp in Orchard Park with the Bills. George Floyd's memorial service, the first of 3, was held in Minneapolis yesterday, and many Minnesota Vikings players and some coaches and staff attended the memorial service. Including in the service were Vikings tight end Kyle Rudolph and wide receiver Adam Thielen. Remember the Mike Norvell story?
Yeah. How could you forget it?
Mike Norvell on Wednesday had said that in an interview, we've talked to every one of our players one-on-one. And we've had, deep conversations about what's going on and allowed them to express their views and what have you. And there were a few Florida State Seminoles, including team captain, defensive lineman Marvin Wilson, who called BS on their head coach. And said, I don't know what world he's living in, but that didn't happen here. And so Mike Norvell quickly had to have a team meeting yesterday morning in which he apologized to his team, and he allowed his players who wanted to get after him, and said, hey, we don't have to keep this in-house either. You want to keep expressing yourself, feel free to express yourself. And for one, Marvin Wilson was appreciative of it. All right. Thought that what Norvell said was genuine and was very appreciative of the fact that they can continue to express themselves publicly in whatever way they see fit. So it seems for now as if Mike Norvell has withstood the first
blowback from line.
First
blowback from line. Yep, no doubt.
Right.
It seems to be, he seems to be getting on okay. I mean, I thought that when the main player who was against it seemed to calm down, that to me is a good sign for Norvell.
Mentioned it earlier. Major League Baseball players yesterday, quote, resoundingly, unquote, rejected the owner's plan of 50 games and prorated salaries for it. And they have said in no uncertain terms, they are not cutting their pay anymore, period. They are the ones taking the risk. They are the talent. Whatever it is that they get paid per game is what it is that they are going to get paid per game. And it is leading many to think that there is now a real chance that there will not be a Major League Baseball season. Because I will say this, Mark, if I were one of the owners, I would be like, if we're only going to play 50 games, why are we even playing at all?
Well, I think you're going to see that. I think you will actually. I think what you've been saying this morning and yesterday, I'm almost now of the belief, David, that the owners are saying 50 games so that they can get away with not having a season.
And if you're Fox and ESPN, I mean, are you even interested in televising this product in 2020? I mean, how much of an audience do you think you're going to have?
You're going to have an audience, David. You are going to have an audience. I mean, New York,
really?
Yes, because New York's, I know it's a basketball town, but New York loves their baseball, and they're going to be good. And LA likes their baseball, and they're going to be good. So you're talking about big markets. I mean, even Houston. I mean, look at where the good teams are. They're in gigantic markets. So, yes.
But, Mark, every other sport is going to be going on. I mean, how much are people going to be paying attention to the Dodgers in Los Angeles if LeBron and the Lakers, never mind Kawhi and the Clippers, are having a deep playoff run? Plus, the football season has started. I don't know if people are even going to pay attention to this abbreviated baseball season.
I think they will, David. You just have to remember, we're not in a baseball market down here.
Oh, I got you.
That's all.
You are right. You are right. New York, especially. Boston, St. Louis. Love
Chicago,
their baseball.
Houston now, L.A. San Francisco, David. These are big, big markets. So I think that they'll want it.
Speaking of Houston, former Tampa Bay Ray and Boston Red Sox outfielder Carl Crawford, who's now 38 years old, was arrested in Houston yesterday on an assault charge against his ex-girlfriend. Chris Archer, out for the year, may have thrown his last pitch for the Pittsburgh Pirates. Turns out he had that thoracic outlet syndrome injury, and the 31-year-old righty is going to need 8 months to recover from the surgery that is to take place. Give a win to Zion. Florida appeals court yesterday temporarily granted his block from having to testify against his former marketing agency, who are trying to get him to disclose what they feel is a whole bunch of gifts and other items that he received to go play at Duke, as they are looking for up to $100 million in damages. Speaking of college basketball, the NCAA, I love this, Mark. They said August 3rd or 10th. We're not quite sure yet. August 3rd or 10th is the date that players now have to withdraw from the NBA draft. Because, of course, the NBA came out with their schedule yesterday, and the draft's not going to be until like October. And so August 3rd or 10th is when you can withdraw from the NBA draft. And something that we did not talk about earlier in the week, this story is actually a couple of days old, but NASCAR took a date away from Dover. They've been racing twice a year at Dover for a long time, the Monster Mile. But the folks that own Dover also own the track in Nashville.
And they're going back to Nashville. They haven't been in they've run some, before it was the Xfinity Series, they used to run one of the other races there, right? Didn't they have a...
Yeah, they ran trucks and Xfinity for a 10-year period of time, but they haven't run a NASCAR race there in a while. They had their, I think, end-of-the-year banquet last year in Nashville, and the cars were coming down Broadway, and people loved it, and they basically looked at one another and said, man, we got to make this.
You think?
Stop. I know.
You think?
Hello.
I mean, Nashville is just blown up as a city in the last 20 years. It is everybody's now favorite weekend destination, it seems. Oh, yeah, it's a slam dunk for a race.
And so NASCAR made that announcement earlier in the week. We missed it.
The anthem. They will be fighting to do the anthem in Nashville.
Yes, they will. Yes, they will. And it's 17 minutes before the hour. That mark is...
The starting five. 5 big stories that you need to know. This is Miller and Moulton Starting 5. Fox Sports Radio and FoxSportsFM.com.
So, David, yesterday... we had a poll question that centered around Drew Brees and his comments and how they will affect the Saints' chances of winning a Super Bowl. Drew apparently must have felt it really was going to affect it a lot, because he had an apology tour that lasted all day yesterday. And first let out the Instagram apology that you were not excited about how early that came out.
Yeah, it was way too PR crafted. Have you really had enough time to listen to anybody and change your mind? I mean, honestly, about something that you were this set in your ways about? I mean, 4 years apart, you gave the exact same answer to the same question. Clearly, this is how you feel. And now you're trying to tell me 18 hours later you've had a change of heart? I mean, I know it can be done.
And I'm of the belief that it can be done. And I said that from the beginning. And David has been very... the cynic, as he said.
Yeah. I thought it was too soon. I thought he did it to try to avoid getting beat up throughout the weekend in the talking head sports PR game. But I really thought he should have taken a few days, talked to some of his teammates, and actually come out with something next week, and maybe come out with something with one or two of his teammates. who were critical of him, to be honest. In which it would have made it seem genuine. So those that say that this is Drew being genuine, okay. There's no way to know. It just seems a little too PR slick to me.
Well, then he went on Instagram, and it's a video where he kind of just says, look at my eyes. I'm sorry, and he went on to talk, and apparently not only did he talk to teammates, apparently he talked to Shaquille O'Neal yesterday, and there was several people that he spoke to. I believe him. I think the comment was slick, and you may be right in what you're saying, David. It was very PR-esque, but it was also one of the more well-written and beautiful apologies I've seen.
No, it was an excellent apology. It was outstanding. It was too good, actually, too quickly. I mean, that's what I'm getting at. That's all. That I thought he was protecting the brand in the morning. And now, maybe by 7 o'clock at night, what he posted, that little video message, that you can see one's emotion, the whole, I will say, look into my eyes. I mean, I don't want to, I got songs now going through my head, John Cusack holding up the thing in your eyes. I mean, I don't know if we.
Sorry, I was going Eagles lion eyes. Sorry.
Okay. So,
but it was just, I kind of giggle that we had a poll question up that really was damn near, I don't want to say irrelevant, but that Drew Brees tried to answer the poll question before our show was over.
Right. I mean, we posted it, and Breeze is essentially answering.
Right. I mean, that's never happened with a topical poll question that we've done before.
Now, I don't know what our poll question is going to be today, but I would love to figure out something along the lines of, what's the most times you've ever apologized for something? Because Drew Brees yesterday apologized twice.
Miller and Moulton. We'll work on that coming up.
Is that a little too cynical? Is that a little too snarky?
Snarky? Cynical? You? Today?
I'm hungry.
We know.
Now I'm hungry. So, Drew, you might not get the best shake from me today because, well, I could use a Snickers.
Well, let's all stand up and walk around on Miller and Moulton. Thanks for listening. Fox Sports Radio.
Welcome to the program.
This is the Dan Patrick Show.
I look back on Andy Dalton's career, and he's actually underrated with what he did in Cincinnati. Patriots, Jags are places that he could compete for the job. It's not like Jameis Winston going to the Saints, which I love the move.
He has risen. That's funny stuff, man.
Be given the opportunity
funny stuff
to
right
go
there.
to class with Sean Payton and Drew Brees.
Dan Patrick. The Dan Patrick Show. Weekdays at 9 a.m. on Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio and FoxSportsFM.com.
It's Fred Kobe with your Kobe Cooling Tip of the Day. I'd like to tell you that I'm the best AC mechanic in my company, but I'd be lying to you. I think my NATE certified mechanic team hides my tools from me so I don't hurt myself. You see, I'm the old guy, and I've been doing this work since I was a kid with my dad. Our younger staff are really the best mechanics in this business, and they've been through years of training and years of testing, with continuing education to keep up to date on the latest and greatest things in the air conditioning world. All companies brag about their experience, and we certainly have that, but we're most proud of our team being on the cutting edge and the leaders in technology and application of the modern air conditioning equipment. That's why we've been voted best air conditioning company in Southwest
people, are they
Florida
excited about the
year after
NBA
year
coming
in the
back?
Press polls. It's not me. It's the best team of NATE certified mechanics ever assembled. Call 239-482-1542.
Or do we ask him, what league are you most excited about returning, NHL or NBA?
Attention.
NHL,
Southwest
NBA,
Florida.
PGA.
Are you ready for this?
Okay.
Oh, I agree. I think I could get him to do one of my smoothies this morning.
$8,000 over Kelly Blue Book value for your trade-in. Hundreds of new SUV models to choose from, all backed by our exclusive unlimited mile lifetime warranty. Pick out your favorite at NaplesNissan.com. Then come see us on Pine Ridge Road to find out the KBB.com current market value for your trade-in. And we'll give you $8,000 more so you can drive that brand new Nissan home today. If KBB says it's worth $5,000, Naples Nissan will give you $13,000. If KBB says $10,000, we'll give you $18,000. You must act fast though. Visit NaplesNissan.com for full details. Offer on select models with approved credit and cannot be combined.
Cathedral Roofing Innovations. Now, Hurricane Irma was a long time ago, but believe it or not, well, problems with tile roofs, they continue to occur as a result. Now, many homeowners are just now feeling the effects of the hidden damage that occurred to their tile roof. Now, whether it's new leaks, cracked, unsecured tiles, these roofs are living on borrowed time. Now, tile roofs, by nature of their design, are susceptible to lift and powerful storms like hurricanes. When this occurs, your tile underlayment can be compromised, but you would not realize it until possibly years later. Now, with Cathedral Roofing Innovations, you get a great roofing company to inspect your roof for any damage. And just because you don't have leaks doesn't mean you don't have issues. Just go to cathedralroofingnaples.com. They are the tile experts in Naples, and they will start the inspection process right away. Just go to cathedralroofingnaples.com.
Twitter's just been one.
Cathedralroofingnaples.com.
License number CCC 133.
Whoever this guy, Brent Taroon, Billy Corbin liked it. In quotes, David, it says video of the crucifixion in the comment section. I'd like to see what he did before the video started.
On TuneIn.
Wow. Oh my God, that's funny.
Dan Martineau here, owner of DR Martineau Roofing of Southwest Florida. We're still finding a lot of roofs with hurricane and windstorm damage. Call us today for a free inspection. Google DRM Roofing or call 239-332-1441.
License number CCC 1326954.
For professional roofing, the name you need to know is DR Martineau.
Pool need a checkup? Call the doctor, the Pool Doctor.
Hi, Dr. Mark here. Do the math. Taking care of your pool is probably not a good use of your time and money. Free $50 Bonefish gift certificates when you sign up for one of our award-winning.
I think PGA will win this poll.
Family company, and for over 40 years, we've been doing business right.
The prescription is the Pool Doctor for award-winning pool service, repairs, and unheard of $39 diagnostic calls. That's mypooldoctor.com or 239-574-1133.
What sport are you most looking forward?
CPC 057088.
Now back to Miller and Moulton.
All right, now we're getting somewhere.
No. This is Miller and Moulton.
You're live.
Seven minutes before 7 o'clock on this Friday edition of Miller and Moulton. Thanks for being with us. Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio. Streaming this and every show on the station at foxsportsfm.com and broadcasting live once again on the Miller and Moulton YouTube and Twitch TV channels. You can chime into the show on the Williamson Brothers Marine and Roofing text and talk line, 479-5551, 479-5551. How did our poll question turn out yesterday, by the way?
Well, it was an overwhelming to the no's. Like 59% said no, wouldn't affect the season at all. And I have the new question up, so I don't have the other one up.
Gotcha.
Give me 1 second. There we go. 25% said a little, 16% said a lot, 59% said not at all.
And the question was whether or not we thought that Drew Brees and his comments would affect the Saints' season at all.
And today, just very simple, we'll leave it up for the weekend. What sport are you most looking forward to resuming their season? NHL, NBA, PGA.
PGA resumes next week.
Not going football. We all know what the answer is. I mean, come on. So when you respond and say football, it's not one of the choices. And all of the above is not one of the choices. You have to choose. Hence the poll question.
Also, these three sports had their seasons interrupted. The football season has not been interrupted in any way, shape, or form. In much the same way that baseball's not on it is because the baseball season's yet to start. You know, what season are you most looking forward to resuming? I mean, next week is when golf resumes, and they're basically going to play for 6 straight months.
Right.
Although there is a growing sentiment to cancel the Ryder Cup.
Ooh. Probably not a bad idea with all the golf that they're going to be playing to move it a year.
It's in late September. The thought being that the Ryder Cup with significantly smaller, if not no fans, is not the Ryder Cup.
Not at all. And because of the way this season's been and how you qualify for the Ryder Cup, majors play 2 times amount the role of other tournaments for Ryder Cup points, where we don't have a British Open. The Masters is going to be after the Ryder Cup. So it is a weird season to even qualify for the Ryder Cup of how that's set up.
And what's interesting to me is that the Euros, or Rory being the leading voice, they are the ones that are like, listen, if we're only going to have 25% fans or no fans at all, I mean, why don't we just take the year off? And you would think that they would be the ones, it would be a tremendous advantage to be able to play a road match in the States with virtually no fans or significantly fewer fans. And yet they're the ones going, come on, this is not in the spirit of, what this has become. I mean, this needs to be a raucous event. That's the reason we want to play in this sucker. All right. Is that it's unlike anything else.
I think that, most of the golfers are big sports fans. They all seem like their college team or the Euros like their soccer teams or whatever it is. And this is their one chance to play in that type of an atmosphere where someone's actually rooting for you or against you. They don't have that. They live in a sport where they're all rooting for them unless Tiger's near the lead.
Right. And basically they're like, listen, if we want to play in the FedEx St. Jude Classic, all right, but we don't. We want to play a Ryder Cup.
We want them booing. We want our fans chanting ole, 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 and that's part of this.
So, and remember, the Ryder Cup got moved after the events of September 11th from odd number years to even years. And so this would, in theory, could put it back in an odd year cycle.
Poor President's Cup takes it on the chin again, the event that no one cares about. Miller and Moulton. Lee Sterling joins us next hour. Thanks for listening to Fox Sports Radio. I'm way off. That was just awful. I looked at the clock and it was at 49. I'm like, can I say something else? I went, probably not.
In Naples on the phone. We're talking about their huge selection and great pricing on Core-Tec flooring. Tim, tell us what's new at the store.
Right now we have 90 colors of Core-Tec.
I was driving. Did you see the comment? I was driving most of the first hour. I'd like to jump back 30 minutes. I think Skinny D and Sasquatch sounds more like a country hip-hop FM radio morning show in Great Falls,
Montana. Just the many colors of Core-Tec that you have. You also
I don't disagree.
Have other Core-Tec products as well.
We also carry the Core-Tec stone product. Looks like tile, looks like stone, but it's Core-Tec, so you get the softness, quietness, and the easy installation to go with it. We also have Core-Tec wood, look of wood, real wood, but with a more stable core for Southwest Florida's humidity.
If you haven't been to the Floormeisters, you really owe it to yourself to visit the store. 6281 Naples Boulevard, right next to Costco, or go online. Floormeisters.com. That's floormeisters.com.
We miss the crack of the bat, the banging of trash cans. We miss the dunks.
Slams it home for 2.
The left turns.
Look how close it is for the lead.
The hockey horns, the kiss cans, the wave, the high fives. We miss it all.
We just got to wait this out and see how it goes.
But just because we miss it doesn't mean we can't talk about it.
We'll get through it. The USA needs it.
On Fox Sports Radio.
This message is sponsored by the Florida A&M University Medical Marijuana Education and Research Initiative, the Florida Association of Broadcasters, and this radio station.
Where I'm from, marijuana is legal. Can I use it in Florida? Nah, it's illegal here. 20 grams or less is a misdemeanor, and more than 20 grams is a felony. Well, I have epilepsy. Should I try to get a medical marijuana prescription? Now that's legal, but talk to your doctor first to see if it's a qualifying
My new favorite commercial.
And if medical marijuana is even right for you. I will, thanks.
WFSX AM from Naples to
Let's get two people who've really never done speaking and get them to do a commercial so it sounds genuine.
Fox Sports Radio.
Wait a minute, what?
Nothing. That last commercial makes me laugh.
What's trending now.
Sounds like they've never done a commercial in their life.
C4MH.com.
Ooh, that's cool.
I got something here.
Okay.
There's only one way to wake up in the morning.
How the heck are you?
Yep, that's it. Miller.
Really upset that my daughter will not read one fish, two fish, red fish, blue fish on Twitch because I needed content. That's what we've come to.
And Moulton.
Well, we need to explain to her the pilot program, and we need 25 hours of programming a week. So you need to deliver your 12 minutes a day, 5 times a week, because that's an hour, honey.
Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
All guests appear on the Goldberg Noon Abraham hotline. Goldberg-law.com.
Yes! Oh, I like it! It's up to you now! It's up to you! I like it!
Now, the best local sports show this town has ever heard. Here's Miller and Moulton.
You're live.
And as we approach a couple minutes past 7 o'clock, top of the morning to you. How the heck are you? Miller and Moulton on Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio, streaming once again, foxsportsfm.com, and broadcasting live on the Miller and Moulton YouTube and Twitch TV channels. You can chime into the show via the Williamson Brothers Marine and Roofing text and talk line, 479-5551, 479-5551, and we'll hear what it is you have to say. Our poll question: which season are you most looking forward to resuming? NBA, NHL, PGA Tour, which quietly resumes next week in Fort Worth at the Colonial.
I will be interested to see how this poll turns out, because we are very NHL around here. I think PGA will do well in this because we're not an NBA market. We never have been.
Right.
But it is still the most popular. The numbers show that more people are watching NBA here than NHL. We just watch a lot of NHL here.
Speaking of the NHL, and I was not planning on going here, but Max Kellerman got himself in some hot water. You know, he does that show with Stephen A. Smith on ESPN. And he matter-of-factly said, A, nobody cares about hockey, and B, it's no longer one of the big four sports.
I don't know if he's wrong.
And obviously, you know, a lot of people went after him, including people at his own network. But
well, college softball does equal numbers to NHL. Regular season games and college softball games on ESPN, the college softball does a better number. So I love hockey. You love hockey. Yep. I spent most of my adult life working for professional hockey teams. Trust me, I love the sport. But I've been saying that for a while. I don't think that that's a new hot take. I've been saying that soccer has been close to passing it, and the way we now consume European soccer, I think soccer is closer to being number 4. I think that hockey is basically in a group with everything else. I don't think we have a big 4. If there's a big 4, college football is the 4th sport. It is not the NHL. The NHL is lumped in with soccer, the PGA, NASCAR. It's ahead of tennis.
In this country, not worldwide, but
I'm just talking in the U.S.
Right.
Because that's what his point is. It's not a worldwide thing.
So
do you think it's one of the big 4?
Well, if you break college football away from, football, if you know what I mean, then obviously the NHL is not one of the big 4.
But stick football together.
No, I think that you're on to something financially in terms of, billions of dollars a year. Hockey is still 4, I believe. I think it's ahead of MLS. All right, in terms of an annual industry. Now, what would be interesting is it ahead of NASCAR? But in terms of what hockey generates annually,
it's 5.1 billion, basically.
Okay. And, I don't believe the MLS generates $5 billion a year annually. I mean, that's a couple $100 million a franchise. That's $250,000 a franchise annually that an MLS franchises would have to generate. And that seems high to me.
Yeah, it's way ahead of the PGA Tour. It's way ahead of the MLS.
Now NASCAR I'd find interesting. Remember, they got 36 races.
Well, it's way ahead when I put the numbers up, David, but I don't know if it's calculated the same because I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, because when I put the NASCAR number was really low compared to the rest of the sports. But I think because it says that their approximate revenue in 2017, see, it just has one team. So I don't know. They do it by the team.
Gotcha.
Hendricks Motorsports is valued at $325 million. So because each team's its own entity, it's tough to put those numbers.
Yeah, it would still be tough to imagine, though, that if you added them all up, it would equal the NHL. And so, I think from that standpoint, if you don't divide football up, then you could make the case it is kind of the way we always looked at the PGA, Mark. It's the fourth major. It's not anywhere close to the other three.
No.
But yes, it is the fourth major. It counts, et cetera, et cetera.
And you have to remember, too, and when you look at the numbers, these are worldwide numbers. Part of why the NHL's number is so big is that it is still the most popular sport in the country to our north. I mean, they're still spending a lot of television money on the National Hockey League, far more than they are in the U.S.
Well, and the other thing that the NHL has going for it is, excuse me, the NHL plays outside of a few cities. At 25 of their 30 cities, the NHL plays at over 90% capacity for an entire year. I mean, hockey fans show up. And it ain't cheap either.
No, everywhere but in South Florida. People go to hockey games.
So
I don't mean Southwest Florida. Don't want anybody to think I'm talking about the Blades. No. I'm talking about the Panthers, okay? So don't.
No.
You Blades fans that are listening, don't get all riled up there.
In fact, let's be honest. The Panthers would do a lot better in Southwest Florida than they're doing over in Southeast Florida.
For games not against the Rangers, Blackhawks,
right?
Canadians. You're right.
Something happened yesterday. I didn't include it in the starting five. And I don't know if the fan is going to care, Mark. But Major League Baseball made a decision yesterday in which they said, road games? Yeah, the visiting broadcast crews are not going to go. They're going to have to figure it out. Broadcast from their studio in their home markets. Broadcast, quite frankly, from their home stadium, which is empty, in which they just set the monitors up and they watch the game on the monitors and they broadcast it. But Major League Baseball, as part of, moving forward, said, hey, we're not going to have announcers travel to road games. Nope, not going to do it. Going to have to broadcast all your games from home.
Now, David, help me here. One, there's a lot more of this going on, and this might be something that hits Miller and Moulton more than it hits our audience because we're broadcasters.
Well, and that's why I said that. I said, I don't know if the fan cares.
Yeah, but I said to you, David, when we were talking about this about a month ago, I said, David, this seems really hard for baseball. Like, I don't know how, like, hockey would be, I don't know how, for the record, Al Michaels called the Olympic Games. He didn't watch the game. He called it off the monitor, which baffles me, how you could do a hockey game off a monitor. Baseball would be, to me, even harder to do off a monitor. Because how the hell are you supposed to know where the ball's going? I mean, you're on such a delay, if you know what I mean. Seems that from a broadcast standpoint, wouldn't that be difficult?
Well, the good thing from a delay standpoint is that you're all on the same delay.
No, I mean yourself as an announcer, you have to wait. You can't say the pitch hit. Well, I don't know where the hell it's going. I can't tell how hard that was hit. I mean, it's a sport where sounds and the initial bat off the ball means everything for a broadcaster. I mean, you've called baseball games. I haven't.
they'll get the opposing feed. They'll get as much audio as they can. But there's really no other way to say this. I mean, in our industry, sometimes the way they do demos is they bring in would-be play-by-play and color commentators, and they sit them in a booth and they put a game on a couple of monitors, and they literally say, here are the rosters, take a half an hour to prepare, and then we're going to start recording. And let's see what you sound like. Because it's the old, anybody can do a team in a game that they're really prepared for and what have you. If you want to be able to separate people, just sit down and call a random game. And if you can do a good job calling a random game, you're good. And so that's essentially what's going to go on here. But think about this. It's the Rays and the Yankees, and the game's taking place in the Bronx. And the Rays broadcasters are sitting in the Trop, watching the game on television, the same way we are, by the way. Only not in the Trop, either in a sports bar or our respective homes. And they're calling the game off of the television.
Now, I don't know what his name is, the goal guy, the soccer guy.
Right.
Did all those games off of a monitor.
Yep, in a studio.
Off of a monitor.
Yep.
Watches a big screen.
Yep. Now, Cantor, right? Isn't his name Cantor?
I don't know.
I think Jose or Jorge Cantor.
I think you're right, but I don't know. But I mean, I just remember when he got his popularity, Real Sports or somebody did a story on him. And I remember that watching it, and he did the games in a studio.
And in recent World Cups, I mean, even last year for the Women's World Cup or 2 years ago, Fox only sent like 2 teams over to broadcast. And all the other games were broadcast back in the States in a studio with broadcasters in a room.
Now, soccer to me would be the easiest sport, far and away the easiest sport to do on a monitor. They can give you a pretty easy shot to see darn near everything you need to see.
I think baseball could be done pretty easily also.
Okay.
Because most of a baseball broadcast is just having a conversation. Now, I think it'll be harder for the team that has one dominant broadcaster, like the way the Dodgers do it. I mean, it was Vin forever. And now I believe it's that Joe Davis who's replaced Vin on the Dodgers network. And he does the games pretty much solo. Now, Charlie Steiner is working with a partner, and I think Charlie could just sit there and shoot the you-know-what doing a Dodgers game, broadcasting it off a monitor. I think it'll be harder for Joe.
But one of the things that makes baseball broadcast uniquely great is that these broadcasters are on the road with the team.
Yep.
That's where you get the nuggets. Yep. You don't get nuggets at home. At home, everybody goes home. On the road, we all go to the hotel. We eat together. We have breakfast together. I mean, it was commonplace because we always got, when I traveled, David, and I don't know the teams you worked for, but the hockey teams, particularly at the higher level, there was always a team lunch at the hotel where everybody sat together, including the broadcaster and the coaches and all that stuff. But breakfast, you're on your own. Breakfast was the time when I got my nuggets because there's someone down there eating. Hey, care if I join you? No, sit down. And then you're one-on-one or two-on-one with a couple of guys. That's when you get, walking around the batting cage, the hours before the game. That's where you're getting your stuff.
No doubt.
And I do think the broadcast will suffer from the nuggets because baseball is purely a nugget broadcast. Not enough action. Football wouldn't suffer from it. You're just calling the plays, talking about the play, and then we do another play. It wouldn't suffer a bit. Baseball, I think, would suffer from that standpoint.
And it could be the first of a few sports this year, which are done via studio. And you wonder if, in fact, it is going to change the way we broadcast sports in this country forever.
Miller and Moulton, one of our old friends. It's not even football season, and he booked himself. He has been hankering to get on this show since we've been off the air. He's been in constant contact with me, checking on one David Moulton. and he will join us next. Lee Sterling from Paramount Sports, talking a little MMA and sports on the other side of the coronavirus. Next on Miller and Moulton, Fox Sports Radio, streaming at foxsportsfm.com, and you are looking live on twitch.tv.
This is The Herd with Colin Cowherd.
James Harrison's talking to Barstool Sports, came out and said, 10 years ago, I lit this guy up for the Cleveland Browns, knocked him out of the game. And
he's got to be off by 29.
An envelope. And I'm not going to tell you what was in the envelope, and I doubt it was Mike Tomlin with a thank you card for the big
7:30, right?
Bounty gate
It's
was
gotta be
different.
off.
Yeah.
Something happened and you discover it 10 years ago, and I discovered it now.
Colin Cowherd. Weekdays at noon on Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio and foxsportsfm.com.
Dial star 2020. Friends, I care.
Well, we're all trying to wash our hands 10, maybe 50, 100 times a day now. So when you touch your contact lenses in the morning, are you also thinking about, all the germs you could potentially be placing in your eyes? No one wants to think about that, so it might be a great time to consider LASIK. France Eye Care offering $1,000 off bilateral LASIK, a savings that makes the procedure much more affordable. Dr. Jonathan France and his expert team of surgeons want to help you see your future in 2020 by providing you with better vision and a better quality of life. But what if you've been told you're not a candidate for LASIK? Call France Eye Care anyway, because there are other procedures available that will help you see clearly without the use of glasses or contact lenses. Call now, schedule your free consultation, take advantage of $1,000 off bilateral LASIK special. Financing available.
Friends, I care.
Attention, Southwest Florida. Are you ready for this? Only Naples Nissan will give you $8,000 over Kelley Blue Book value for your trade-in. Hundreds of new SUV models
Are you guys
to choose
calling
from,
the guests?
all backed by our exclusive
Yes, we are,
unlimited
Hero.
mile lifetime warranty.
All right, thank you.
Pick out your favorite at naplesnissan.com. Then come see us on Pine Ridge Road to find out the KBB.com current market value for your trade-in. And we'll give you $8,000 more so you can drive that brand new Nissan home today. If KBB says it's worth $5,000, Naples Nissan will give you $13,000. If KBB says $10,000, we'll give you $18,000. You must act fast though. Visit naplesnissan.com for full details. Offer on select models with approved credit and cannot be combined.
I'm a busy person.
Catch the show anytime. Check out MillerandMoulton.com and subscribe to the daily podcasts.
We've got our good friend Tim Meister, owner of the Floor Meisters in Naples, on the phone. We're talking about their huge selection and great pricing on Core-Tec flooring. Tim, tell us what's new at the store.
Right now we have 90 colors of Core-Tec in stock, ready to go, pick up, put down as soon as you want it. Everything from starting at $299 on up with lifetime warranty.
And it's not just the many colors of Core-Tec that you have. You also have other Core-Tec products as well.
We also carry the Core-Tec stone product. Looks like tile, looks like stone, but it's Core-Tec, so you get the softness, quietness, and the easy installation to go with it. We also have Core-Tec wood, look of wood, real wood, but with a more stable core for Southwest Florida's humidity.
If you haven't been to the Floor Meisters, you really owe it to yourself to visit the store. 6281 Naples Boulevard, right next to Costco, or go online, floormeisters.com. That's floormeisters.com.
It's Fred Kobe with your Kobe Cooling Tip of the Day. I'd like to tell you that I'm the best AC mechanic in my company, but I'd be lying to you. I think my NATE certified mechanic team hides my tools from me so I don't hurt
How
myself.
long we got, Jero?
You see, I'm the old guy, and I've been doing this work since I was a kid with
Less
my
than
dad.
a minute.
Our younger staff are really the best mechanics in this business, and they've been through years of training and years of testing with continuing education to keep up to date on the latest and greatest things in the air conditioning world.
Morning.
Hey, Lee, how are you?
Brag about their
Doing great. How things going this week?
Good. Good.
All right. Feels okay?
Yeah, he's on. He's on right now. He's listening to you.
Okay. All right.
He's fighting. He's got to have blood work today, so he is hungry and angry, and he's hangry.
Angry. I get that from my girls.
Oh, I think we get it from everybody, right? Here we go.
Oh, yeah. I don't get that way. Funny, I don't get that way. I just get quiet.
Your life.
So.
Here we go.
All right.
20 minutes past the hour. It's a pleasure to welcome back Lee Sterling to Miller and Moulton. He of Paramount Sports, ParamountSports.com, 800-400-9741. How you been?
I've been good. Now, I think the first like 4 or 5 weeks was just weird for me. So once I got out of, there was a few days I woke up and it was Monday and it was really, I thought it was Wednesday or it was Sunday and I thought it was Thursday. You know, all the days just seemed to just roll into the next. But I just got onto a regimented workout program. I think I worked out for the most since maybe college when I was playing college football. So it's been a long time, and I watched a lot of TV. So never knew there was so much good stuff on HBO, Netflix, Amazon Prime.
All right, Lee. I'm hoping, though, you've been watching a lot of film. I mean, we're going to play sports again, Lee, and I would hope that you're using this time to break down every damn game from 2019 so you're ready for next year.
So the negative is I wasn't able to see spring games, and that is one of the ways I get a real edge over most people watching the players that are emerging. So I've had to dig even deeper this year. Really studied kids from junior colleges who might play a prominent role. I'm talking about quarterbacks, running backs, receivers. So whereas I might see 1 or 2 game tapes of those guys, I've looked at 3 or 4. So just taking a different approach, and I might play on some teams like Louisiana Lafayette, the average person wouldn't look at. But, hey, a winner's a winner. I'm even doing MMA now.
Well, they're the ones that came back. That's where the action is, including UFC 250 this weekend, which we'll get to in a moment. How are you going to handle these sports that are resuming? You know, basketball, hockey, because obviously going to have a 3-4+ month layoff. I mean, you can't assume that you're betting on the same team that you were in the second week of March, right?
Yeah, I'll probably watch the first couple games of each team, look at the rotation. You know, you're going to find out there's some players that probably didn't do very much and maybe thought the season was lost. But I have a feeling we're going to see the teams with the best coaching staffs, like the Miami Heat, that was really monitoring what each one of their players was doing. Players that have, you know, those good core values that we're working out, and those teams are going to, you know, probably get off to quicker starts and do better. So I think it's going to be interesting. You know, we'll have to look at some different things with, you know, no crowds. It'll be strange. It'll be like watching those Orlando Summer League games, but they have meetings. So we'll probably observe the first 2 or 3 games of each team, and then we'll dive right back in and do what we do best.
Well, Lee, how much did home court, home ice, home field, because David and I have been talking about this for a long time. You know, it used to just be a standard thing in football. Home team was 3 points.
Yeah.
Well, it's not anymore. Players are far different than they used to be. Home crowd does not have the effect. I think college basketball is the last place where the home crowd really can help a team because I think they jitter officials. How much have you looked at home court being an advantage, and how different will it be with no fans, 25% of the fans, et cetera?
I think you just got to take it on a case-by-case, you know, position, because look what happened with, you know, someone like the Seattle Seahawks. That's a team. I mean, huge home field advantage. There's 2 or 3 illegal procedure penalties every single game, and you know, other penalties. You know, like holding penalties are called more because the offensive line just they're stuck in their stance. They don't hear the snap call, and it makes a real difference, and it's a big time advantage for Seattle. So someone like the Seattle Seahawks, you know, they might not have any advantage at all. They don't play before fans. But I'm one of these, you know, I look at it from the glass half full. And we saw Iowa about a week, 10 days ago, said, you know, Iowa State's going to play to 50% capacity. And yesterday, the state of Texas said that all their teams are okay now to play to 50% of capacity. And if that's the case, I think, you know, who knows? We might see teams playing a minimum of 50% capacity. You might have some states that might allow full stadiums, so don't be shocked if by the start of college football or week 4 or 5, you see Alabama and Auburn, they got 100,000 fans in the stands.
Well, yeah, think about it. I mean, week 3, Bama hosts Georgia. I mean, that's a lot of money you're walking away from. I mean, come on now.
Nice home field advantage.
$7 million a game.
So,
you know, I mean, it's millions of dollars, the difference between 100% and 50%.
What's the most common? You would think everyone, I mean, 3-4 weeks ago, if you said college football be back, I think that 95% of the people would just be happy with that. Now, the most common question to athletic directors is, hey, if you're half full or 25% full, how many games am I going to be able to go to?
It's been on my mind because once this quarterback signed in this city to the north of me, I've got a couple of season tickets, Lee, and I'm hoping I can go to 8 games, not 2. I'm right there with you.
Right.
So it's certainly out there. All right, Lee, I know you've got yourself into MMA a little bit. We are not MMA guys. I'm looking at the card going, I don't even know who in the hell any of these people are, nor do I care. So give me there's 5 fights on the card. The women's featherweight title bout is the headliner with Felicia Spencer and Amanda Nunes. Is that the one you're going after? Or is there something else on this card that you see a chance to make some money?
Okay, so one of my employees is an ex-MMA fighter, and he has been bugging me for 3-4 years to put out MMA picks. So we started doing it a little over a year ago, put out 11 cards. We've won 9 of the 11. He does most of the selections, but I have time now. So I'm watching 4 or 5 fights from every fighter, and we're really getting together and going through things, and put out my biggest selection ever last week, a 50-unit selection. We had a kid who was such a good kicker. I mean, so many different varied kicks. Early in the second round, the other fighter just laid on the ground and just stopped. I mean, it's only the 10th time in UFC history. So we're looking for big advantages. Now, the odds on that fight, the championship fight, Amanda Nunes, is minus 650. I'm not going to lay 650 to win $100. That's absurd. But what's interesting about that fight is not only is Amanda Nunes the 2-time, she holds 2 belts, she is the only male or female that is defending the title and has defended the title in both weight classes. So never seen that before. We've seen Conor McGregor hold 2 belts but never defend 2 different weight classes. So she's an amazing athlete. But I'm going to give you 2 fights that I really like a lot. Second fight in a kid named Alonzo Menefiel. Looks like, I mean, probably played ball somewhere. 32 years old, but a young 32. Is not. I think he's 9-0. Has not fought a whole lot. Started a little late in life, but I'm going to say he's minus 225 to win the fight. We're going to take him by stoppage, which is a pick'em. All he needs to do is win within 3 rounds, and this guy throws punches, kicks, and does not stop. I think he's a different class than Devin Clark. And then in the middle of the card, Ian Heinisch. We're going to take him minus 130. Great story here. This kid his parents lost their home to bankruptcy. The parents get divorced. Went on the wrong side of the tracks and ended up getting arrested in the Canary Islands, serving a couple years there for drugs, and then comes back and had an arrest warrant and served over a year at Rikers Island. 2 places you don't want to be in jail. But I love the way he grapples and trains out of Thailand, even though he's a United States citizen. We're going to take Ian Heinisch. Love a nice story there to get the win in that fight.
Yeah, there are islands that you don't want to be on. Usually the Canary Islands you do want to be on. Rikers Island you don't.
Not a good vacation spot. Sounds nice, not.
Right. Chamber of Commerce, it's just a very small office there at Rikers Island. Lee, great hearing you. Hope all is well with you and the family, and thanks for checking in on me. I'm doing okay.
Glad you're it's great to hear your voice. Been listening online this week, and just stay healthy, and we got a big football season ahead of us.
Yes, we do, and we're going to have everything on top of the football season as well. You'll be hearing a lot more from Lee Sterling, Paramount Sports, ParamountSports.com, 800-400-9741.
Thanks, Lee.
Thanks, guys.
Lee'd been chomping at the bit. Lee, along with Seth, were the first 2 people from the industry that know me, and I know a lot more reached out to David directly. But Seth Everett and Lee Sterling were calling me the minute that David put out the news. And both Lee and Seth said, hey, you need me to do a show with you? I don't need any money. If you're going to do shows, let me know. Whatever you need, I'd love to do it. I'd be happy to do it. Let me know what I can do. And so I'm very appreciative, and I know David is as well. Lee has been very concerned and constantly texting me wanting to know updates and things that are going on. And then he wanted to get on the show. Then he wanted to book himself. Then he wanted to talk some MMA. Love the fact that he's got an employee, but because I was going to ask him, like, Lee, no offense here. Right. We've been talking to you for a decade. You've never mentioned MMA. Why am I supposed to listen to you?
Right. You're a football, basketball guy.
Right.
Yeah.
And, okay, got a guy in my staff. So, and it was funny. I had the main card up, and he starts pulling these fights. I'm going, where is this on the card? I mean, I've got to go. This is the early prelims. I think these are the freebies. I don't even think these are an ESPN Plus freebies.
Hey, listen, doesn't matter where you make your money.
But that shows me that the guy working for him is doing some research. If you're going the second fight on, there's not a lot known. That seems to be a spot where you might be able to take advantage. So Alonzo Menafield was the guy he picked in the early prelims. And the prelims
picked to win by stoppage, though, because that's a pick'em.
Right. All
right, so to win by stoppage.
And Ian Heinisch is the other fighter, a middleweight fight that is in the prelim card. So these are both quite a bit earlier than when the main card picks up if you want to get a little action on MMA. And let's be honest, who doesn't want to get a little action right now?
Well, there's no question about it. Did you see Belmont opened up on Monday?
Yes.
And their take on the first day of racing this year versus their take on the first day of racing last year. Now, remember, there were spectators last year.
Right, but spectators are a very minimal part of horse race betting these days.
I understand, but still, there's not a single person who placed a wager at Belmont in 2020.
Right.
And the take was double. Double. First day of racing at Belmont Park this year.
I love it.
Take was double in 2020 what it was in 2019.
Have you seen the pictures from Vegas that just opened? Have you seen the casino pits? They're jammed.
The gambling stocks.
Yeah. Wish I would have been ahead of this one.
I mean, I think many people thought that gambling stocks would go in the tank for a couple of months with there being very few sports to gamble on. And we know the reason why. And if you think about it, Mark, we were talking about it. We should have done this ourselves. We said, hey, coming out of this coronavirus stoppage, our sports are going to have sports, and they're all going to be on top of one another. And we may have an 18-month continuous run here. And in fact, it could even last longer. If you think about through the, almost 2022 March Madness, I mean, we could have an unprecedented 20-month run of sports here, because we're going to have hockey and basketball and potentially baseball all on top of one another, but also then the strong likelihood that both the hockey and the basketball seasons get pushed significantly back next year. And much to my surprise, Mark, read an article last night in which they are thinking that maybe hockey, not just basketball. We've talked about, shouldn't basketball be kind of a Christmas into August type of sport? I mean, it is a city spring and summer sport. It's an outdoor sport. Why are we playing during the winter months? Why are you competing with football so much, et cetera, et cetera? They're now thinking that maybe even hockey might push their season back.
Hockey should start Thanksgiving weekend. Hockey should start Thanksgiving weekend. I've worked in the sport for many years, and there's not much difference in this regard between the NHL and the minor leagues. The first game in October is a big deal. Everything then until around Thanksgiving weekend is a fight to get people in the stands, to get people interested.
So for about 5-6 weeks, it's basically like Major League Baseball. You get the big crowd on opening day, and then unless the weather really warms up quickly, you struggle for a month.
Exactly. And Thanksgiving weekend was always kind of particularly in minors, but it was one of those weekends. Hey, if you got that Friday after Thanksgiving game, that should be a good one. Everybody's home. They're looking for something to do. That should be a good jolt. And that always, to me, kind of starts the season. So I would think, let the NFL have Thanksgiving. Start your season on the Friday after Thanksgiving. Own it. There's not much going on. Own it. No one's working. Could play all day long.
Interesting. I was wondering about the day before Thanksgiving.
Okay, fine. Like that, too. Don't play any games on Thanksgiving. Play Wednesday, take Thursday off. If they want to play in Canada, play in Canada. Because they don't care about the NFL, and they don't care about Thanksgiving because it's our holiday. And then let it rip on that weekend. I think you'd be onto something there.
Now, granted, I'm a little biased because last year I was in Detroit for Thanksgiving, and so I took in the Wings and the Leafs, who I guess play every Wednesday night before Thanksgiving. They play each other, and they play at the Joe and or whatever it's called now, at Little Caesars.
Caesars Arena.
Yes, and it's a gorgeous arena. Hockey team sucks. Arena is spectacular. And it's a fairly big to-do. It's part of that whole Detroit, and I did not realize this until last year. It's part of the whole big Thanksgiving weekend in Detroit sports. They take great pride in the night before Thanksgiving. Wings host somebody. Oftentimes it's the Leafs. And then the next day, of course, the Lions play.
The next day the Lions lose.
Well, their record, I think they're only a couple of games below 500.
Really?
Yeah, all time on Thanksgiving. I think they're like 2-3 games below 500.
Okay.
So their winning percentage is actually better on Thanksgiving than it is during the rest of their season.
Fair enough. Which, isn't saying much because...
No, it is not. And it's not above 500. And that's with playing nothing but home games. But still, it is better. Miller and Moulton, 21 minutes before the hour. Today was the day when, coming up, we'll talk a little NBA and NFL in our 8 o'clock hour.
Sorry, David. Poll question is up. And it's what sport are you most looking forward to resuming their season? And right now, the NBA barely ahead of the NHL, and the PGA is definitely in the race. Not 9 percentage points between first and last.
I like it. That's a good poll question.
We'll have it up all weekend long. There's no way for any of these leagues to apologize at 9 o'clock to make this poll question completely inaccurate, the way that Drew Brees did yesterday. He answered our poll question before our show was over.
It's another reason maybe to get on him about the apology. He ruined our poll question, for goodness sakes. I mean, come on, priorities.
Yeah, we've been doing 200-plus votes for weeks now, and then Drew Brees just sabotaged the poll question on us.
Come on, Drew.
You're better than that.
Yeah. And then you have a 7 p.m. apology as well? Come on now. Miller.
Probably should have just done the 7 p.m.er. Probably should have just done the video. Probably should have avoided the written statement and not read a prepared statement. Gone on the video and just talk.
Yep. But he's going to get a pass, largely. Not from everybody, but he's going to skate from this.
Yes, because there's a 14-year track record of him being a very good person.
Yeah. And he's a star quarterback. And, the only thing that certain people are going to want to see is he going to kneel? As we've mentioned in the early part of this week, there's going to be a lot of kneeling in the NFL this year. Going to be a lot of kneeling. And they will take notice of who's kneeling and who's not. And I don't think it'll be universal. I don't think everybody's going to kneel. So they will be paying attention. Won't be seeing it, in my estimation. You might see it real early in the season, but I don't think you're going to see a lot of it. But it's going to get talked about. Miller and Moulton. Today was the day when, coming up here on Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
Drive home with the Doug Gottlieb Show.
I know that
people want to correct me like, no, it's not the flu game, it's food poisoning. Give me the pizza place's name. Right? If there was a real thought that the pizza place did this intentionally, trust me, the Jordan henchman would have been out. So either the story is complete crap, or I don't even believe 4 people got to his hotel room floor. Don't believe that happened.
Doug Gottlieb, afternoons at 3 on Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
You should be driving a Kia from Galliana. Galliana Kia.
Galliana Kia in Fort Myers is open, and we're here to help. Over 400 vehicles in stock. New 2020 Kia Forte LXS lease. 0 down. $149 per month. That's right. A new Kia for $149 per month with 0 down. Plus at Galliana Kia in Fort Myers, you can drive payment-free for 4 months, interest-free for up to 75 months, and worry-free for 100,000 miles. Plus prepaid gas for up to a year. Our parts service and body shop are open to serve you. New Kias, 0 down, $149 per month at Galliana Kia, 1/2 mile south of Daniels Parkway on US 41 in Fort Myers. Open every day, including Sunday. Call 239-481-2600. GallianaCars.com.
You should be driving a Kia from Galliana. Galliana Kia.
36-month lease, 10,000 miles per year, 0 to its signing, plus tax, tag, title, doc, and dealer fee. 0 security deposit, $13.33 per month per thousand borrowed for 75 months at 0 APR with 0 down.
Cathedral Roofing Innovations. Now, Hurricane Irma was a long time ago, but believe it or not, well, problems with tile roofs, they continue to occur as a result. Now, many homeowners are just now feeling the effects of the hidden damage that occurred to their tile roof. Now, whether it's new leaks, cracked, unsecured tiles, these roofs are living on borrowed time. Now, tile roofs, by nature of their design, are susceptible to lift and powerful storms like hurricanes. When this occurs, your tile underlayment can be compromised, but you would not realize it until possibly years later. Now, with Cathedral Roofing Innovations, you get a great roofing company to inspect your roof for any damage, and just because you don't have leaks doesn't mean you don't have issues. Just go to cathedralroofingnaples.com. They are the tile experts in Naples, and they will start the inspection process right away. Just go to cathedralroofingnaples.com. cathedralroofingnaples.com.
License number CCC 1331928.
This is our commitment to you. We're going to bring the funny.
This was all an elaborate joke.
We're going to bring the joy.
We want to entertain you.
We're going to be there for you always. We'll be your escape. That's our commitment to you.
A committed, focused culture.
We are Fox Sports Radio.
Let's face it, these are stressful times. New routines, the constant bombardment of bad news, and trying to keep you and your family safe all the time. It's Frank for Center for Men's Health. During these stressful times, your mood is so critical, and nothing's more important to a guy's mood than testosterone. The single greatest issue for guys with low T is mood. And the single greatest change for men that get low T care is a greatly improved mood. Many are grumpy when they start, and most can't believe how much their mood improves once they get treated. And everything improves once your mood improves. Feel the difference C4MH.com can make in your life. I've been a patient of C4MH.com for a couple of years, and recently I've lost 20 pounds because now I have the energy to work out from home. And that'll put you in a good mood too. C4MH.com's express treatment plan is convenient, affordable, and above all, safe. And with locations all up and down West Florida, there's one near you right now. Find out more. Go to C4MH.com.
Attention, Southwest Florida. Are you ready for this? Only Naples Nissan will give you $8,000 over Kelley Blue Book value for your trade-in. Hundreds of new SUV models to choose from, all backed by our exclusive unlimited mile lifetime warranty. Pick out your favorite at naplesnissan.com. Then come see us on Pine Ridge Road to find out the KBB.com current market value for your trade-in. And we'll give you $8,000 more so you can drive that brand new Nissan home today. If KBB says it's worth $5,000, Naples Nissan will give you $13,000. If KBB says 10, we'll give you 18. You must act fast, though. Visit naplesnissan.com for full details. Offer on select models with approved credit and cannot be combined.
Here we go! Now back to Miller and Moulton. No. This is Miller and Moulton.
You're live.
15 minutes before 8 o'clock. Thanks so much for being with us. Miller and Moulton, Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio. Streaming this and every show on the station at foxsportsfm.com. Broadcasting live are we once again on the Miller and Moulton YouTube and Twitch TV channels. Sign up for them. They're free. Can't beat that. Chime into the show via the Williamson Brothers Marine and Roofing text and talk line, 479-5551. That's 479-5551. Our poll question: of the 3 seasons that are about to resume, one next week, the other 2 in a little more than a month, which one are you most looking forward to resuming? NBA, NHL, or the PGA Tour? Go to that Mark Miller, the David Moulton, millerandmoulton.com. Without further ado,
time now for, oh, there it is.
Miller and Moulton's Today Was the Day When, giving you the history of today's date so you're a beacon of useless knowledge around the office.
Useless, but a lot of fun to talk about.
This is Today Was the Day When, Fox Sports Radio and foxsportsfm.com.
We start today in 1948 when Phillies rookie Richie Ashburn set the rookie consecutive hitting streak at 23 games. 1952, Jersey Joe Walcott beats Ezzard Charles in 15 for the title. In 55, Mantle goes yard today off of Billy Pierce from Chicago. They say the home run was measured at 550 feet. That's just deep.
yes, it is.
I mean, it's just deep. 1959, Robert Zimmerman graduates from Hibbing High School in Minnesota. You know him best as Bob Dylan. Sad day in 1968. For those that don't know, that today was the day that Robert Kennedy was shot. He would die the next day, but shot by Sirhan Sirhan at the Ambassador Hotel in L.A. 1974, Reggie Jackson and teammate Bill North engage in a clubhouse fight in Detroit. Reggie fought everybody.
Well, Reggie was a big fan of Reggie, and it rubbed a few people the wrong way.
I'd say that's about the best way of putting it. 1977, the Trailblazers beat the Sixers in 6 to win the NBA championship.
Yep, Dr. Jack, Bill Walton, the Blazers' only title. I think that wasn't that Julius Erving's first year with the Sixers?
I think you're right. Because they would have to get Moses Malone to get that title. Doc couldn't do it on his own.
No, that was, those Sixers teams were fun
so
too. It was
good.
George McGinnis and Bobby Jones. I don't think Cheeks and Tony were on those teams yet, but they were coming.
Tony wasn't there yet, for sure, because he was much later. But yes.
I saw a highlight recently from that final. And
that Blazers-Sixers final?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did.
First off, the long hair that they all have. I mean, Dr. J's afro is legendary. Walton looks as if he's been out in the wilderness for a couple of months.
Yeah, this is the look Walton wanted his whole life in college. I mean,
exactly.
He's full deadhead right now.
Right. This is what John Wooden would not let him. This is when he showed up for first day, and Coach Wooden said, "Well, William, it was nice having you on the team." And he got on his bike and went to the local barber and said, cut it all off.
Right.
And came back. But Irving with a steal, and Walton's out ahead of him. All right. And Dr. J takes off, and, those huge hands and kind of a half windmill. And Walton is going to contest the dunk. And Julius just shoves it on him. Bill Walton.
Right. And I saw something on this during the coronavirus, not what you watched, but it really, I've seen a lot of Walton college highlights, but UCLA was so much better than everyone else. It's tough to see. They were just dominant. Now he's against NBA players. I was watching some highlights on that season. For a guy like me who remembers more of Walton being the sixth man with a bad back for the Celtics and a bad knee and, barely able to play, if you know what I mean. It was a shell of the man that older folks remember of Walton. Watching those highlights, God bless, was he good.
and a gentleman who passed earlier this week, Wes Unseld, the debate as to, those two, many people feel, are the two best outlet passers as big men who have ever played.
Walton could pass. Boy, could he ever pass. 1982, Martina Navratilova beats Andrea Jaeger for her first French crown. A year later, the hometown favorite Yannick Noah would win his only Grand Slam, beating Mats Wilander in straight sets. That same day in 1983, during a 48-day tour, this band called U2 played this place called Red Rocks. We all now know it as U2 Live at Red Rocks Under a Blood Red Sky. Maybe the live album that changed everything for that band, because they started playing their videos from that concert on MTV on a regular basis, and we got a glimpse of what live U2 was all about with Sunday Bloody Sunday, that video from Red Rocks that I think will, from a music fan standpoint, will stand up the test of time. David, 1989, another guy you don't like very much, but respected. The last of the original Islanders, Billy Smith, retired today in 1989.
Billy Smith did not believe in the handshake line. Thought it was ridiculous. He just was like, we're trying to beat each other here. And so if Billy Smith took part in the handshake line, that was considered like he respected your team, or he, one time, the Rangers and Islanders played many times in a playoff series, and the Islanders got through in overtime of the final game of the series in 84, and Billy Smith made sure to shake the Rangers goalie's hand. All right. And for those, that had watched the Rangers and Islanders play like 5 out of 7 years in the playoffs, they hadn't seen Billy Smith shake many hands before. It was like, oh, wow, what a sign of respect. But what a big game goalie. What a great
Islanders, stick swinger. I mean,
yes,
let's be honest.
Yes, he was a dirty goalie too. Yes, chop you at the ankles.
He was filthy dirty.
Yep. But the Islanders had to make a choice. They couldn't win the big one, and they had a two-man goalie rotation. It was Billy Smith and Chico Resch. And Al Arbor eventually goes with Billy Smith. And the rest, as they say.
Glenn Chico Resch, one of my favorite hockey names out there. 2005, Rafi wins his first French. If you were born...
and how many times has he not won it since?
Right.
Like twice?
Exactly.
Seriously, Djokovic won it once, and Federer was won it once. I think he's won every other year.
And did he miss? Well, okay. He doesn't have 14 French titles, or 13 French titles, does he?
I think it's at least 11.
Okay. All right. If you were born today, you share your birthday with the late, great, and very funny man, Art Donovan. My goodness. His bits on Carson were legendary.
Yep.
I mean,
Letterman used to bring him on, too.
Yeah, they're just great stuff. Masseuse connoisseur Robert Kraft, born today in 1941.
Look at you. Look at you.
Perhaps the ugliest man I've ever seen in my life, Kenny G, born today in 1956.
Ooh.
I was at Mar-a-Lago at a party many years ago with my one rich friend. And we walked into a room, and there was Rod Stewart, Rachel Hunter, and Kenny G. And we didn't talk to any of them, but I just remember seeing Kenny G and saying, that is one ugly man right there. Thank goodness he can play that there saxophone, because he would have spent a lot of time alone otherwise. Bob Probert, born today in 1965. I've never seen a tougher hockey player. Never have. Proby was a killer. Mark Wahlberg, born today in 1971, and today was the day on this June the 5th here on Fox Sports Radio.
479-5551, 479-5551 is how you can chime into the show via the Williamson Brothers Marine and Roofing text and talk line. Poll question, as we mentioned. What season you most looking forward to resuming? We'll have it up all weekend long. So that Mark Miller, the David Moulton, MillerandMoulton.com. Make sure you vote NBA, NHL, or PGA Tour, since this is arguably the number one golf market in the country, and the PGA Tour season resumes next week.
Right now, the NBA in a huge lead. Actually surprised that it's that big of a lead. 41% for the NBA right now, 30% for the PGA, and 29% for the National Hockey League. So
that's interesting.
Yeah, it's changed a lot throughout the day. And also, Heckle Hyde did a little research for us. I like the fact that our Twitch TV crew is also part of our R&D crew, because they fire out some links every once in a while. And he did just point out that Nadal has 12 French titles. 12 French titles.
Well, if you think about it, 2005 through 2019, that's 15 French Opens. He's won 12 of them. I know Djokovic, I believe, only won the one. He took out Nadal in the quarters that year and won it. And Federer had the 1 year in which he won the French, where he obviously didn't have to face Nadal because he can't beat Rafa on clay. I mean, hardly anybody can beat Rafa on clay.
And it's interesting. He gave us the whole thing. He's got 4 U.S. Opens, 2 Wimbledons, and 1 Australian. See, it's tough for me to put him in the same league then as Federer when it's so dominant on one surface. And I know they're very close in titles.
Yeah.
One man's opinion.
They're only, 1 or 2 apart, I believe. I think, what's Rafa at 19 and Federer's at either 20 or 21. And it is one of the things that we've wondered. The big 3 in men's tennis are all in their 30s. And what will this layoff do to them? I mean, we're all waiting for certain athletes to hit that wall. And you wonder if in men's tennis, if you take them out of their routine for like a 4+ month period of time, will they never come back as the same guy?
And who knows, the one thing in that Last Dance just kind of reminded me of that there, when Jordan is doing Space Jam and they were showing all of those pickup games that were going. I mean, like the whole thing was, could you get flown in to play in the pickup game in L.A.? How much are Rafi and Joker and Federer playing tennis right now? And nobody really knows what their workout is. Basketball and football coming up in our final hour right here. Miller and Moulton, Fox Sports Radio. I sync my clock and it's
Even
not
in
right,
my
you
80s,
son of a
every
biscuit.
dive is exciting and enjoyable. When I developed
That was
cataracts
fine.
years ago, I couldn't see well underwater. You can have the best gear and know the best dive spots. If your eyes aren't the best, it's just not the same. And Dr. Scheibo knows that.
Knowing how much Jimbo cares about diving, it was a privilege to fix his vision.
It's great to know that we got eye doctors in our area that care just as much about me as I care about being in the water.
Hi, this is Dr. Scheibel from Community Eye Center. My partner, Dr. Spatafora, and I want to remind everybody, don't be a spreader. The coronavirus is so tiny, 100 million particles fit on the head of a pin. As we run around in our trucks and cars and play golf and go fishing and go to work and do the things we like to do, we are spreading the virus. The virus can only move with us. Over 65, diabetes, COPD, all these folks will be hurt severely by this virus. Wash your hands, be careful, don't be a spreader.
A date which will live in infamy. People who knock these buildings down will hear all of it.
Amazing comebacks. Comebacks that inspired the American story. And before you know it, another great American comeback story
In stopping the virus,
will be in the books.
we will have a great victory
Our story continues
and return to our lives, great lives.
on Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
For professional roofing, the name you need to know is D.R. Martineau.
Dan Martineau here, owner of D.R. Martineau Roofing of Southwest Florida. I've been repairing and replacing roofs for 27 years. We operate with integrity, knowledge, and service. Google DRM Roofing or call 239-332-1441.
License number CCC 1326954.
For professional roofing, the name you need to know is D.R. Martineau.
Hoops in the hallways, battling in the break room, and target practice in the urinals. WFSX AM from the Rock to downtown Fort Myers. We are Fox Sports. Here's what's trending now. Brought to you by the Center for Men's Health, C4MH.com.
Hello.
Keith.
Yes.
Good morning, Mark Miller, Southwest Florida.
Hey,
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Very well. Thanks for giving us some time this morning. Since we're all in the home studio thing, I can't even have the producer call you because it's the only way we can do this right with all the craziness. So,
not a problem.
David goes first. I go second.
There's only one
and we're going
way to
on
wake up
here in
the
about
morning.
30 seconds.
All right.
Thanks again.
Sure.
Yep, that's it. Miller.
Really upset that my daughter will not read one fish, two fish, red fish, blue fish on Twitch because I needed content. That's what we've come to.
And Moulton.
Well, we need to explain to her the pilot program, and we need 25 hours of programming a week. So you need to deliver your 12 minutes a day, 5 times a week, because that's an hour, honey.
Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
All guests appear on the Goldberg Noon Abraham hotline. Goldberg-law.com.
Yes! Oh, I like
It's up to you now. It's up to you.
I like it.
Now, the best local sports show this town has ever heard. Here's Miller and Moulton.
You're live.
Third and final hour of Miller and Moulton, and the final hour of our week here on Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio, streaming at foxsportsfm.com and broadcasting live once again, are we, on the Miller and Moulton YouTube and Twitch TV channels. Pat Kerwin to talk all things NFL in a little more than 20 minutes time. It's a pleasure for Keith Smith to join us once again. He covers the NBA for NBCSports.com and Yahoo. You can follow Keith on Twitter at Keith Smith NBA. Keith, hope you and the family still doing well during all this. How are you?
We're doing well. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, and I know you've been working, but now you're really going to go back to work here. Anything surprise you? The length it took to come to a deal, the terms as to how many teams and how many games, just your overall thoughts now that they have reached an agreement on the NBA's plan to return.
Yeah, I think the length of time shows the thoughtfulness and the care that went into this. Adam Silver made sure that the players were on board, made sure that the owners were on board, and really has done a pretty good job of not rushing this process. They wanted to find something that was workable. He owned from the very beginning that some teams were going to be unhappy, some players were going to be unhappy, and that's part of the job of the commissioner is to do what's best for the league. And a little surprised at the plan they landed on, the 22-team plan. No one would pick that number out of thin air, so that seems a little bit surprising there. But I think ultimately they did a pretty good job here, making a fairly fair compromise to take care of the teams that were already going to be in the playoffs. Those teams that were in the lead for those final playoff spots, they now have a pretty good advantage. But those other teams, they have a chance, and they've got a puncher's chance to make up the ground and get in. So I think that's about as good as you can do.
And I actually liked the way they went about it because it seemed to us that the races were pretty much done in a lot of cases. So they included a few more teams. Is there a team that, I guess, from a standpoint that could jump out because we pretty much knew who the good teams were? Does this break give any certain team some advantage that we didn't see?
Yeah, the one team that I keep thinking about and not that they weren't already a good team, but is the Houston Rockets. They kind of, gone from a contender to, yeah, they're okay, but they're not a real contender. Then they started to play pretty good, and they did it in a very unconventional way when they went very, very small. Tallest player in their starting lineup's about 6'7", and they, beyond that though, they were also playing an extremely small rotation. They were only playing 7 or 8 guys most nights, so that's everybody's playing heavy minutes. Everybody's playing up a position, 2 positions, sometimes even 3 positions at times in the game, and that really was taking a toll. And you could see, although they were playing good basketball, you could see some of their guys were starting to wear down. I think this break now gave those guys a chance to rest up, heal up, and I think they'll be able to come back and really push. And the pictures that we're seeing of James Harden, he looks like unbelievable. I don't know that he was in that good a shape when he came into the league. So I think that they're a team to really keep an eye on here, because I think they might come out looking really good as a fresh team.
He's Keith Smith. He covers the NBA for NBCSports.com and Yahoo. Follow him on Twitter at Keith Smith, NBA. All right, help me out here. 8 teams are going to make it from each conference, but, out west especially, you've got 5 other teams that they're given a chance here to catch Memphis. Do they have to catch them, or do they just have to be close enough? Isn't there a play-in type of scenario?
Yep, you're on it. So they gotta kind of catch them, but not really. I jokingly said it's like when you're playing a flag football and you grab the flag, but you don't quite pull it off. Sometimes they'll give you that, sometimes they won't. And what they have to do is they have to get to within 4 games. By the time everybody's going to come back. They're going to play 8 games apiece. Those 8 games get added on to what the current standings and records are now. If after they're calling them seeding games, after those are done, if a team in either conference is 4 games or less back of the 8 seed, then what happens is though the 8th and the 9th team go into a play-in, and the 8th team needs to win 1 game, and then they're in. While the 9th team, they would need to win twice. They need to beat that team 2 times in a row. 9 needs to beat 8, and then the 9th place team gets into the playoffs as 8th place. So that's how it'll work. And then you're right, the conference structure stays the same. It's 1 versus 8 in each conference, and that's the more traditional route that we're used to seeing.
A 16-day regular season to end it. They're saying 5 or 6 games per day. Teams are playing back-to-back. I mean, for a basketball junkie, this is going to be nirvana. I mean, this is going to be sit in front of your TV all day and watch hoop for 16 days, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be like I call it Summer League with stakes. That's what Summer League is.
Yeah.
Like. And this is going to be, this is going to be awesome. It's going to be, instead of watching, a couple, of the prized young players and then a bunch of guys who are fighting and scrapping for a shot in the league or the G League or an overseas contract, you're getting the real deal here. You're getting all-stars and superstars and everything else. And it's going to be really great, once they get this up and running, that, you can, put the games on. And I was told, because it's in an East Coast venue, we're likely to see games, potentially as early as, 12 noon or 1 o'clock. It's starting to sound like to me as we're going to get a lot of this looking almost like what those first couple weekends of the NBA playoffs look like, where you've got 4 games Saturday, 4 games Sunday, and because it's all good to okay teams that are in the mix here. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
Well, I think people are ready for it. I mean, I think that the more you give them, the hungrier they are right now. Keith, next season is going to start around Christmas or New Year's. Do you think that's going to be a one-off, or do you think that the 2021 season is going to be the beginning of what the NBA is going to look like going forward?
I've been saying that the NBA does a really good job of taking lemons and making lemonade, and they're going to make some lemonade out of this. They're going to try it out. They're going to look at it, see what it looks like, and get a sense for it. But as far as it being a permanent change, there's a couple things that work against that. I think you're going to see that the 2021 season be much more compressed, and it's going to be a push to get back close to the regular calendar by the time the season wraps up. The reason I say that is, one, a permanent change in the NBA calendar needs to be collectively bargained with the players, and we've already heard when that proposal came out in it was either late February or early March from one of the NBA owners that should be the permanent change. A bunch of players spoke out. They're not interested. They don't want that. They don't want falls off. They like having the summer off, and that's what they want to do. The other piece that kind of goes on talked about here is 20 NBA teams share a regional sports network with a Major League Baseball team. When you have a couple weeks of overlap in early April, it's not a big deal. Major League Baseball plays a lot of day games early in the season. They have a lot more off days early in the season. Now you're talking about stretching May, June for that, and maybe even into July. That's going to be a problem because both the NBA teams and the Major League Baseball teams have language in their contracts that say we can only be pushed to the alternate channels, X amount of times per season and the like. And you're talking millions to billions of dollars on the table for both of those leagues. And it's two leagues that they're not really going to want to compromise for the betterment of the other. So that's going to be something that's going to have to be figured out before this can become a permanent change.
Boy, Keith, that's a great point, because baseball's swimming in revenue because of regional TV deals right now, and they're not going to want to part with that in any way, shape, or form. Excellent point. Saw that you posted your preseason predictions. What happened to Philly? You said you got all 8 teams right. I was way off on Philly. I think a lot of people were. What happened to the Sixers? Why was not just you, but so many people so wrong about Philadelphia?
Yeah, I think almost it's funny. All of my, they could, be in the lower half if all of these things go badly, and almost all of those things went badly. They just didn't fit. They didn't have the shooting. That was my one concern all along. But I said, I think they're going to push really hard. I think that in the regular season they'll be able to bully teams a little, and I think the shooting will undo them. As we get into the postseason, was more what I felt. But it was really a huge problem all regular season long. Their backups, their bench was not very good. So anytime they had injuries or any kind of foul trouble in games, they struggled. And the biggest thing was they have the largest disparity of home road split in the entire league. They were, one of the best teams in the NBA at home, 29-2, and then on the road, I believe they were 10-19, and they are 10-29. It's something in that range, and they were really awful away from home. And you look at some of their individual players, they're like two different guys. Joel Embiid is a absolute monster, dominant superstar at home, and on the road he's good, but he's not very efficient. He doesn't shoot well, shooting 43% from the field on the road, and that's a guy who's 7 feet tall and seems like at times he can get a bucket whenever he wants. So it's just they're a very different team, and kind of everything that went bad could go bad.
He's Keith Smith. He covers the NBA for NBCSports.com and Yahoo. Follow him on Twitter at Keith Smith NBA. Looking forward, salary caps are all based on revenue. Obviously, the league's going to take a revenue hit here. Is that going to be reflected in future salary caps? Because, let's face it, teams kind of assume that the cap was going to be a certain number. And if all of a sudden it comes in 10, 12, 15, $20 million less, I mean, going forward, is the salary cap going to be a major issue in the league?
It's going to be reflected to an extent. Adam Silver was very clear with the players, the owners, and front offices that the CBA has no mechanism to account for multi-billion-dollar loss in revenue. It's just it was never set up. No one ever envisioned that. So I think what is likely to happen, as this is how most teams are thinking as well, is versus letting the current formulas set the salary cap, which is essentially designed to make sure the team side and the player side get 50% of the revenue each, rather than doing that, because player contracts are already locked in. So the players are going to get far more than 50% with the revenue down. They're going to essentially break that. And through some form of special bargaining, they're going to say, hey, that system works when things are good. But maybe for next year, maybe the year after, maybe even the year after that, there's probably going to be more of a artificial line of setting the salary cap, because nobody wants to see it really bottom out down to 80 or 90 million, which is a huge drop from where it is now and a massive drop from where it's projected to go. And then in a couple years, it jumps back up, because we saw what happened with the cap spike before. It wasn't good, and it didn't work out the way anybody really wanted it to. So I think you're going to see them do something where they set it a little bit artificially higher, so that way everybody's a little bit more taken care of, and then they can move forward from there. So it's going to be a partnership. But this is where the fact that in the NBA, more so than I think in any other professional sports league, the Players Association and the league have a great working relationship, and they're pretty good at finding mutual goals and getting to that. And I think that's going to be huge moving forward.
The draft. I mean, this is screwy. Draft's going to be, in October or something like that they're talking about? I mean, how difficult for these teams, and I know it's only 2 rounds, and I know they have a pretty good idea, but how much does this disrupt the cycle, if you will?
Yeah, it's the single biggest thing is that they haven't been able to do any medical checks on any of these players. That's really a must to draft the players. You have to get them in and look at his medicals and have your own doctors and trainers get a look at the guy, because you're talking, ideally you're making anywhere from a 4 to 10 year investment, if not longer, in a player when you draft them, and that in millions upon millions of dollars. And that's something that teams are very conscious of. We've got to be, able to see what these guys look like. And then beyond that, sure, the individual workouts and just that time in the gym, those workouts are, you know what a guy is. You're not getting a whole lot out of him, going against the chair or shooting wide open jumpers and those kind of things. But what you are doing during that is you're talking the entire time. You're getting a sense who these guys are. There's a famous Draymond Green story about how he tanked a shooting drill. It was absolutely horrible. And he insisted and begged that the Warriors let him do it again. And when they finally relented and let him do it again, he did it so much better. And they said that was, a really good sense of just this guy's competitive spirit and how important it is for him to do things right and to succeed. And that was, a big part of why the Warriors ultimately drafted him. So those are the things that are going to be missed here. And then the NCAA is not helping things much either, because they've put an August 3rd date on, that's when players got to withdraw and return to school. And I know they're trying to take care of their member schools, but for the players, that's going to cause them to, they're not going to have a pre-draft camp in July.
Nope.
And so a lot of these players are going to have a hard time, really understanding what their draft stock is from teams. So that's going to be a challenge there. These guys are going to make bad decisions. And often we see when a player doesn't have a full picture, their default is, well, I'm going to stay in, because they believe in themselves and they put faith in themselves, and often they get bad information. So they'll stay in the draft, and we're going to end up with, hundreds of kids in the draft when only 60 get drafted.
Yeah, you would think that this would be the year actually where a lot of kids would go back to school for everything that we talked about. They're not going to be able to work out. They're not going to get the look that they used to get from NBA teams. I mean, if you're advising players that are on the draft bubble, I would advise this is the year you go back to college. Keith, very quickly, what's the official policy if somebody tests positive? Do they take them out of circulation? Everybody else moves forward, and then we test them until they're negative and they come back? I mean, what is the official coronavirus policy?
Yeah, we don't know yet. We haven't, seen that exactly, but all accounts are what they're going to do, because Adam Silver was clear from the beginning, and he wasn't saying he disagreed with this mindset. Was, if one positive test is going to shut us back down, then we can't do this. That can't be our mindset. And if that's where everybody is, that's fine. Then we call it a season and we move on. But it sounds like what they're going to do is if a player or a couple players test positive, they're taken out of the mix. They'll go into a quarantine for a couple weeks, and then you're going to treat it like it's an injury or an illness at any other time in the season. And then, hopefully they get healthy and get back and they're able to play. What has not really been answered is what happens if it's 4 or 5 guys, or, 7 or 8, or an entire team. What do we do then? My gut tells me at that point, you start saying, all right, we've got an outbreak here. This is no longer safe for anybody, and we got to shut the whole thing down. We gave it our best shot. But if it's 1 or 2 guys and they feel they've got to contain, then they'll go. The NBA's goal all along has been get them to Florida healthy, test them daily while they're there to keep them healthy, and then finish the season healthy. And there's a lot of hope in that, but that is the goal.
Keith, thanks for your time and your insight. We always appreciate it. Continued staying safe with you and the family, and hopefully we can talk again right before the season starts.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me. Y'all stay safe, you and yours.
Keith Smith covers the NBA, NBCSports.com and Yahoo. Follow Keith on Twitter, Keith Smith NBA. Keith, kind enough to join us once again here on Miller and Moulton. There's a lot of ground to cover. I mean, we covered a lot of it there.
And the point you made, we've talked about, what is the policy if someone tests positive? Keith says, well, we're not really sure. What we're hearing.
I don't see where there are a whole lot of options, to be honest with you.
But what he's saying, what else can they do? They just take the guy out.
Well, but for all sports.
Right.
Quite frankly. What Adam Silver said, Mark, has to be the mentality of all these other sports. Hey, if we're shutting it down if one person tests positive, then we might as well shut the thing down now, because somebody's going to test positive. What is it that we said going back 3 months? The question you need to answer first before you go forward with anything else. What are you going to do when someone tests positive? I mean, Mark, 5 Alabama football players showed up at Tuscaloosa this week, tested positive.
Correct.
They just showed up positive.
Right.
Now they're all young.
And they're all, I think, asymptomatic.
Yeah.
But, yes.
But what are you going to do?
And look at, this goes along with what we've said. They're just, I know people on here, so we're testing millions of people a week. Yeah, but we're still not, we never ever got to the number of tests that was recommended for us to be testing. Now, whatever your philosophies are on the coronavirus aside, what happened at Alabama is going to happen everywhere. It's just going to.
Sure. Earlier this week, there were 2 Marshall players and some staffers. And
well, there was one corner man for this UFC fight tomorrow. Now, it looks like it was a false positive test because initially they were going to have to pull the fighter as well.
I will say, you think of it, the UFC's been fighting here for a few
every
weeks.
Week.
And with the exception of the very first fight back, when the night before the fight, they had a fighter and his corner man both test positive, and obviously they pulled them out of the equation and canceled that one fight. But otherwise, they have been extremely fortunate here with the coronavirus. Keith Smith joining us here on Miller and Moulton. Pat Kerwin is scheduled to join us next. Pat, in his place in New York. Did you see Pat had a visitor earlier this week? He'll join us to talk about it next.
Okay.
Miller and Moulton, Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
We are fighting for your community.
Pat had a bear.
The guy that fights
did he?
injustice.
We're giving you a voice.
It's Fox.
We're letting you know that we have your back.
There is a ton of optimism.
Whether it affects your world,
We're all searching for something.
it is true. We are here for your community.
We are excited to join you.
Yes.
And here they are. We are Fox Sports Radio. And we are here for you.
Great news, Southwest Florida. Below invoice employee pricing at Galliana Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. That's right. Below invoice pricing on Chrysler Pacificas, Jeep Wranglers, Jeep Gladiators, and heavy-duty Ram trucks. Over 1,500 new and certified pre-owned vehicles in stock. Loaded, luxurious Grand Cherokee Limited lease. 0 down, $269 per month. That's right. Jeep Grand Cherokee Limited. 0 down, $269 per month. Plus at Galliana Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, you can
Did you
drive
see?
payment
Are you
free
here,
for
David?
4 months.
I am.
Okay.
Free for
Did
6
you see
years,
the
and
PSA
worry-free
video
up to
the NFL did?
100,000 miles. Our parts service and
The
body
players?
shop are
Yeah.
to serve you.
Yeah.
Below invoice employee
Pretty
prices
good.
at Galliana
Really
Chrysler
good.
Dodge
I did
Jeep
not
Ram.
realize
1.5
that
miles
Nickelodeon
south of Daniels
ran
Parkway
an
on US 41
9-minute
in Fort Myers.
PSA.
Open every day,
Black
including
screen said, "I
Sunday.
can't
Call
breathe."
239-481-2600.
Well, I know all the
GallianaCars.com.
CBS channels earlier this week went dark for 8:46.
Yeah. But Nickelodeon, I mean, come on.
Right.
We've got our good friend Tim Meister, owner of the Floor Meisters in Naples, on the phone. We're talking about their huge selection and great pricing on Core-Tec flooring. Tim, tell us what's new at the store.
Right now we have 90 colors of Core-Tec in stock, ready to go, pick up, put down as soon as you want it. Everything from starting at $299 on up with lifetime warranty.
And it's not just the many colors of Core-Tec that you have. You also have other Core-Tec products as well.
We also carry the Core-Tec stone.
I was going to ask Pat
looks like stone,
what
but it's Core-Tec,
his
so you
week
get
has
the
been like this
softness,
week.
quietness, and the easy
On the air.
installation to go with it.
So what's it
we
been like?
We also have Core-Tec wood, look of wood, real wood, but with a more stable core for.
And when he tells me that they were talking offensive linemen, I'll laugh. But I'm just wondering how far down the road they went.
6281 Naples Boulevard.
I heard I heard 3 minutes of his show, and he had a Saints fan on who was a black guy, and he asked him about Drew, and the guy just went on to speak, very strongly about Drew and didn't think it was going to be a problem. And then later that night, they're chanting F Drew Brees in the street. So,
contact lenses in the morning. Are you also thinking about, all the germs you could potentially be placing in your eyes? No one wants to think about that, so it might be a great time to consider LASIK. France Eye Care offering $1,000 off bilateral LASIK, a savings that makes the procedure much more affordable. Dr. Jonathan France and his expert team of surgeons want to help you see your future in 2020 by providing you with better vision and a better quality of life. But what if you've been told you're not a candidate for LASIK?
Call France Eye Care anyway because there are other procedures available that will help you see clearly without the use of glasses or contact lenses. Call now, schedule your free consultation, take advantage of $1,000 off bilateral LASIK special. Financing available.
France Eye Care. Attention, Southwest Florida. Are you ready for this?
Hi, this is Pat Kerwin. You've reached me on my...
$8,000 over Kelly Blue Book value for your trade-in. Hundreds of new SUV models to choose from, all backed by our exclusive unlimited mile lifetime warranty.
No Pat.
Pick out your favorite at NaplesNissan.com.
Oh, well.
Then come see us on Pine
We'll
Ridge
go
Road.
back over all our stories.
KBB.com current market value for your trade-in, and we'll give you $8,000.
And if he calls you, he calls you.
So
Yeah.
you can drive that brand new Nissan home today. If KBB says it's worth $5,000, Naples Nissan will give you $13,000.
I've got to admit, this commercial has scared the hell out of me every time I hear it.
Because of the pauses?
The beginning. We have an important, and there's, I'm like, what the hell? It's because I'm not paying attention, and he jumps at you. He makes me listen. It's a good spot.
Credit and cannot be combined.
Now back to Miller and Moulton.
All right, now we're getting somewhere.
This is Miller and Moulton.
You're live.
"26 minutes past the hour. Heading down the home stretch of Miller and Moulton for this Friday and for the week. First week back for me after surgery. And I have to admit, Mark, surprisingly holding up well today.
You are, but I will say, even though you told me and Johnny Mac in the Twitch chat room basically how much you liked us earlier in the show when Johnny advised you to stand up more because he's been paying attention. During the breaks, David's commented several times this week going, I got to stand up more. If I sit for a long time, I get pretty uncomfortable. And usually by the 8 o'clock hour, David is standing a lot. And so when Johnny and I early in the show suggested that, a very hangry David Moulton told us that we were right and to shut up, basically. Today's not the day. But
congratulations. All right, you're correct. And I appreciate your concern, except today. Because I'm fasting and I have to do some blood work right after the show. And I want to eat everything that's not nailed down. So I don't need any advice. I don't need any pearls of wisdom, no matter how right you may be and how wrong I may be. Keep it to your damn self.
You're right, David.
Right.
And you know what? On that note, you're right. But it was asked, and I think we're long enough into the home stretch now that I can safely ask this question without getting yelled at. Since we know there's a very limited amount of things that you can eat, I don't even know if you enjoy any of them. What are you going for after the fasting?
Well, I'm bringing a Quest bar with me.
Okay.
To get me from the blood work to the car.
Right. Yep.
And then it's been salmon, chicken, and this burger concoction. I don't know if it's veggie, turkey, I don't know. There's stuff in it.
One of those things. One of those Beyond Meat things, I bet you.
Yeah, there's stuff in it I never would have eaten, with a gun to my head previously. And now, I'm about ready to finish the box. So,
right. I've tried one of those fake meat burgers. They're not awful. I mean, it's not a hamburger, but they're not awful.
Yeah, Mark, there's like kale in this.
So you don't have to know that. Can you taste the kale?
Well, I don't know. There's something in there that I don't think I've ever tasted before. I'm assuming that's the kale. It's interesting. Let's leave it at that. But, a lot of carrots, grapes. I will say I can still do cashews.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, that's very good.
I love myself a cashew.
That's very good, especially since you get about 2 dozen cashews per serving. I mean, hey, that's not like, all this other stuff in which you look at the serving size and you're like, 5 ounces,
When we're serving up sports here in a few weeks, our poll question is, what sport are you most looking forward to resuming their season? The key here is resuming their season. For those of you that are tweeting back to me with NFL hashtagged, did you read the question?
Right, resume.
Did you read the question? That's all I ask. Read, not answer the question. Read the question. the question. Sorry,
Look
David.
Look at you, John McEnroe. All right, arguing with the umpire.
Yes.
The question.
Answer the question.
Answer the question, you jerk. I think that was at Wimbledon. And when he called the referee, you jerk. Oh, they just went nuts. Now, of course, he's been broadcasting BBC at Wimbledon for 20 years. I mean, it's hysterical.
It is. That interview with McEnroe that Joe Buck did with John McEnroe, it's on Audience. And I know he hasn't done that show in a while, and I talked about it about a month or so ago when I watched. It is a great hour of television. A great hour. Buck's terrific, and Mac is laying it out there. I mean, they're having a really good conversation.
Joe put a lot of effort into that Audience show. He really did. He has a tremendous researcher in Steve Horn, and Steve got him some great material, and it allowed Joe to delve into some things with some people. I mean, the very first show he did was with Jerry Jones. He brought Jerry Jones to tears.
Hopefully I'll see more of those on and tape them and watch them because they run all that stuff constantly. Our poll question today on the sport you're looking forward to resuming their season. The NBA has had the lead most of the day. It is shrinking. Very close, being chased by the PGA. In fact, a mere 4.2 percentage points between the NBA, which is in first place in our vote, and the NHL, which is in last place of our vote. I love these.
That.
I love this type of a poll question. That makes me happy. With a lot of votes already, the NBA at 35.6, the PGA at 33.1, and the NHL at 31.4. That question will be up all weekend long at both that Mark Miller and the David Moulton, and I'm sure at our Fox Sports Twitter page as well.
And it's the type of question that shows what you and I have talked about at various times over the years. This is a unique sports market. I mean, and we have talked about that, quite frankly, it's harder to do a show in this market than it is in most major markets. In Tampa, it's real simple. There's 4 things you can talk about every damn day, 365.
Yep.
You can
Bucks,
talk about the Bucks,
Rays,
the Rays, the Lightning, and the
Gators.
Boom. Done. Ball game over.
Or even Orlando. The Magic, the Gators, the Bucks, and UCF to a lesser extent.
You know, Miami, we all know what the teams would be. And in most major cities, you know, there's very little depth to the topics of discussion. It's just the way it is, because the people in those parts of the world, that's who they care about. We're a very diverse sports audience.
But it is also one of the reasons why David and I love this job so much, that our audience allows us to talk about damn near anything.
Right.
I mean, we can do a NASCAR interview followed by a golf interview followed by an NHL interview, and there's a market for it here. Not to mention when we go horse racing, because we love ourselves some Triple Crown in Southwest Florida. I think we love ourselves some Crown in Southwest Florida these days, too.
Yes,
by the way,
I
liquor
think we
sales
do
have
as
been
well.
going. But that's a separate discussion.
479-5551 is how you can chime in via the Williamson Brothers Marine and Roofing text and talk line. 479-5551. I'm wondering, you know, the Belmont's coming up here. I mean, they're doing the Belmont before this month is up.
A week from Saturday, right?
I mean, is it their normal weekend that they're doing it? I thought it might be just a touch later, but I mean, it's unusual. They're doing the Belmont first. And then to me, I'm wondering, like, will you Labor Day weekend make room for the Derby? And because you're a Derby guy.
David, I want to go. But you and I, before this all started, before your ailment started, you and I discussed doing the show from Louisville on Friday because you were going wherever you were on Saturday or coming from wherever you're coming on Thursday. Then we'd actually had a discussion going, I think we can pull this off because they have a little mini Radio Row there. And the Oaks being on Friday, you can't do this if you don't do both. So, yeah. By the way, the Belmont is a week from Saturday, or 2 weeks from Saturday, the 20th.
Hot damn. Hot damn. But it'll go Belmont, then it'll go Derby, and then it'll go Preakness, I believe, this year. But Labor Day Saturday will be the Derby. And I'm just wondering, we're going to have so much sports on top of one another. That'll be the first big weekend of college football, at least we expect it to be. And along those lines, did you see what Scott Strickland, the AD of the Gators, said yesterday?
I did not.
Said they want to lead the nation. They want to lead the path for the rest of the nation to follow. That we're going to have students on campus. We've announced that they're coming back, this, that, and the other thing. And as for fans in the stands, well, we're not going to announce anything for a couple of months, but early to mid-August, we're going to make an announcement. And you could just tell, all right, that they're leaning more towards, hey, if Disney's going to be open, this goes back 3 months. Remember, we had Craig Brush on like a day or two before the world came to a stop.
Two of the better interviews we did locally were with Craig Brush and Ken Kavanaugh, because Ken was ready to play a women's tournament game and Brush is ready to play hockey. And
right. And Craig just said, listen, if they want me to stop, I'll stop. He goes, but I'm looking at Disney. If Disney's open, how can I not be open? It doesn't seemingly make sense. And now, shortly thereafter, Disney closed down and it's not reopening here for another month. But in theory, in mid-July, Disney and Universal and everything along that corridor that is considered a theme park or an amusement park is going to be open.
And David, I don't know about your thoughts on this, because you and I have not discussed this at all, but we are reopening as a country. Phase 2 here in Florida. Things are opening up. And yes, there's been a spike in cases in certain spots. I don't see any way that we ever shut down again, even if there's a second spike, the way we did the first time. I don't see it being possible, David. I don't know if people would stand for it this time. I'm sorry.
I think there might be a handful of states where the governor is in good enough standing in which the governor could just say, I'm sorry, we gotta pull back. But otherwise, no. I mean, this is reality. This is a tremendous. I mean, we're now at 42 million people have filed for unemployment since this all started. I mean, 42 million people. I mean, there are guesstimates in this country that of the 330 million people we have, just how many workers do we have out of the 330? I mean, a lot of people believe it's in the 150 to 180 range. I mean, that means 1 out of every 4 workers has filed for unemployment here since this has started. And so the economic reality of, hey, people have gone through hell and back.
We're in a depression. Make no mistake.
And can we put the brakes on again?
And I don't see how.
And this obviously mixes sports and politics and health and all that. But part of, if you go back a couple months, all right, the idea of doing what we did was not to eradicate it. It was to do what we did so that we had the PPE, the hospital beds, we had a system in place. We had the resources so that when we open back up and there is a spike, that we can handle it. We couldn't handle it in certain places the first go around. Now in theory, if we have maybe not what we had earlier, but a spike, that we will have the hospital beds and it is one of the things they're talking about in Minneapolis. Obviously, they've had a lot of protests and this, that, and the other thing. Well, the hospital beds are filling up. And, I saw somebody last night that basically said, hey, we got a little COVID spike here. I don't know if we have the beds. So, and we may have that in certain parts of the country.
We may. But I just don't see how, like you've said, with the unemployment numbers being what they are, but then there's a whole nother factor of people that are working for less right now. There are a lot of people that didn't lay their employees off, but put them on a couple of days a week. I had to take myself away from one of my jobs. Your other job was affected greatly because you'd have been working your tail off right now, health notwithstanding, for the golf and all the other things you do this month.
Right.
You're not getting any of that money. So and you and I are like a lot of other Americans out there that are selling this or doing that their commissions have been cut in half. I mean, I don't think that 25% accurately portrays how many people have on top of that taken a substantial pay cut. So that's why I don't think going forward, for a lot of reasons, we're not going to shut down.
I do think ultimately it becomes a legal question. We said this a couple months ago. To me, if you're, whatever, legal counsel of a major university, obviously to bring kids back on campus, you've had to have that internal debate. But, Mark, people are paying. I mean, nobody is being forced to go to these games. I don't you think that legally that would take these teams, leagues, conferences off of the hook? No one is making you go.
No, not only are you paying, but in the case of college athletics, you're not just paying for a ticket, you pay thousands of dollars for the right to buy that ticket.
Now, I do think that every university should have a mulligan in effect this year, that for what we just talked about, the economic hardship that so many of us are going through, and B, if you are genuinely still very concerned about your health and you're like, listen, I'm not going to go to football games this year. Okay, fine. I don't think you should lose your place as a season ticket holder this year.
I agree with that.
I think these schools, these teams, they need to figure out a way to put you on the side. We will sell your seats to someone else this year, all right, and this year only. And then you get first dibs for these seats in 2021. Now, if you don't want them in 2021, well, then you lose the rights to the seats. I do think they have to do that. I also think they need to do it legally. All right, so that this way, when they get taken to court, and obviously somebody's going to get sick and take somebody to court, they could say, hey, listen, A, we didn't make them pay. B, we even had a plan set up in which they didn't lose their spot in line.
In fact, here's the email, and here's a copy of the email and a copy of the letter that was sent out to our season ticket holders explaining to them exactly what they were allowed to do if they didn't feel comfortable coming to games. I think you're on to something with that.
There was a very interesting quote yesterday. Mark Emmert, president of the NCAA. And I don't know if he was testifying somewhere or if he was speaking before a group, but he said, and I quote, there are going to be some schools this year that don't play football. And there were a few people in the sport that kind of looked around like, what does he know? Who's he been talking to? And also, they're kind of curious because, once again, what is it that Mark Emmert and the NCAA have no control over?
Division I football.
Right. But at the highest level.
But is he talking about FCS teams? Is he talking about D2 and D3 teams?
I wonder, is he talking about Rutgers? Is he talking about, could there be one or two schools? Could there be a school in the Pac-12? Could it be Rutgers in the Big Ten?
What about the Cuse?
Upstate New York's fared pretty well.
Yeah, but a lot of people that go to Syracuse are not from upstate New York.
Well, that is true.
I mean, so I just throwing, there's a few out there that seem pretty logical that if you said these schools could possibly not play, you go, okay, it makes a little bit of sense.
So Mark Emmert with that quote yesterday, which raised a few eyebrows and got a few people's attention. There's a story earlier this week about the Oklahoma State linebacker who showed up after attending a protest or two, and he was tested positive for the coronavirus. It is very interesting, the difference at Oklahoma State versus Oklahoma. I mean, just in the same state, obviously, and how Oklahoma State has been wanting to open things up and the whole deal. And Lincoln Riley and the folks at Oklahoma are like, no, we're good. It's okay. Maybe July. We'll see. It's all right. We're fine. We'll be okay. So Texas has opened up in a big way, and the governor and others are like, you could, 25 or even 50% capacity if you want. And this is in June. So imagine what they may think in September.
I believe they're playing full on in the fall. I really do. I have for a while. You know that, David. There's just too much damn money at stake.
Well, that's what we've said from the beginning.
And If you're putting kids in dorm rooms, explain to me how you can't put them in a football stadium. You're going to let them go to dorm rooms. You're going to let them eat in cafeterias, but they can't go to the football game? It doesn't make any damn sense, David. It just doesn't make any sense.
Never mind the money.
By the way, on that note, parents, get ready for a long winter break, because I know most schools right now are ending at Thanksgiving and coming back after the first of the year. So prepare on having those children of yours home for a long time with nothing to do.
Miller and Moulton, the good, the better, and the best as we put this first Friday in June edition to bed. Thanks so much for being with us, Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
Welcome to the program. This is the Dan
So, David, which states? Sean asked. I guessed New York and Cali, and he's telling me no way. And I'm just curious what states you were thinking. That's when you said a couple of states, I immediately went New York, California.
What, in terms of governors in good enough standing?
Yeah.
I think Murphy in New Jersey could do whatever he needed to do.
Okay.
I think the guy in Connecticut could do whatever he needed to do.
For professional roofing, the name you need to know is DR Martineau.
Dan Martineau here.
It looks like they've weathered the storm, but I think the guy in Washington could have also. I think he's in pretty good standing.
Free inspection. Google DRM Roofing or call 239-332-1441.
License number CCC 1326954.
For professional roofing, the name you need to know is DR Martineau.
Pool need a
Hey,
check.
Maddie.
Call the doctor. The Pool Doctor.
Hi, Dr. Mark here. Do the math. Taking care of your pool is probably not a good use of your time and money. Free $50 Bonefish gift certificates when you sign up for one of our award-winning weekly service plans. We're a family company, and for over 40 years, we've been doing business right.
The prescription is the Pool Doctor for award-winning pool service, repairs, and unheard of $39 diagnostic calls. That's mypooldoctor.com or 239-574-1133. State certified CPC 057088.
It's Fred Kobe with your Kobe Cooling tip of the day. I'd like to tell you that I'm the best AC mechanic in my company, but I'd be lying to you. I think my NATE certified mechanic team hides my tools from me so I don't hurt myself. You see, I'm the old guy, and I've been doing this work since I was a kid with my dad. Our younger staff are really the best mechanics in this business, and they've been through years of training and years of testing, with continuing education to keep up to date on the latest and greatest things in the air conditioning world. All companies brag about their experience, and we certainly have that, but we're most proud of our team being on the cutting edge and the leaders in technology and application of the modern air conditioning equipment.
Hey, kiddo, you shut the door for me?
We've been voted best air conditioning company in Southwest Florida year after year in the news press polls. It's not me, it's the best team of NATE certified mechanics ever assembled. Call 239.
I don't know, Fan. I don't know if the airlines are, because I know for a fact Delta's not selling middle seats yet.
CACO 57313.
But it doesn't make any difference in that regard to me, because what the hell's the difference if it's not selling middle seats? These people are still on top of one another.
Receiving over. Play Fox Sports FM on TuneIn.
Cathedral Roofing Innovations. Now, Hurricane Irma was a long time ago, but believe it or not, problems with tile roofs, they continue to occur as a result. Now, many homeowners are just now feeling the effects of the hidden damage that occurred to their tile roof. Now, whether it's new leaks, cracked, unsecured tiles, these roofs are living on borrowed time. Now, tile roofs, by nature of their design, are susceptible to lift and powerful storms like hurricanes. When this occurs, your tile underlayment can be compromised, but you would not realize it until possibly years later. Now, with Cathedral Roofing Innovations, you get a great roofing company to inspect your roof for any damage.
The BBC stories on what's going on here are, it's really interesting to watch the BBC, how they do it.
Well, them in Australia both.
And they will start the inspection process right away.
Yeah, I can't watch Australia every day, though. That BBC International, I sit and watch more than the other news channels, because it's still news for the most part.
Right.
This message is sponsored by the Florida A&M University Medical Marijuana Education and Research Initiative, the Florida Association of Broadcasters, and this radio station.
Where I'm from, marijuana is legal. Can I use it in Florida? Nah, it's illegal here, man. But I have PTSD. Should I at least try to get medical marijuana? That's legal. But if I were you, I'd talk to my doctor about qualifying.
Like how they threw the PTSD in there, because that is the way for all of you wanting to get medical marijuana. They will tell you at the doctor that that's how you get it. They hand you the test and say you've got it. There's 20 questions ranked 1 to 5. You need to score a 70.
This is Mark Miller's Good, Bad, and Ugly on Fox Sports Radio. You're live.
For the good today, I totally missed this story. And David, I apologize for this story before I start, but I thought it was pretty cute, and I don't think you're going to like part of it. But there was a bear roaming around last week in downtown Fort Myers. And Florida Fish and Wildlife captured the bear in a humane trap by using none other than Krispy Kreme donuts.
There you go. There you go. There you go. What couldn't we catch?
With Krispy Kreme. I mean, who wouldn't walk into a trap
right
if there was a dozen Krispy Kremes in there?
Let's be honest. Ask yourself this question. All right. When they have been in front of you, and you could have one, no questions asked. How many times have you walked past the donut and not grabbed it? Come on. Seriously.
Once.
Yeah, in your life.
Right, in your
life, Vern. Right. You walked past it once. Right.
I just... that was a few weeks ago, and I don't know how I missed it, but I just thought that was a spectacular story, because couldn't...
Did they say what kind?
No, but Krispy Kreme, I'm going glazed. Their glazed donuts, delicious.
It is good. It's rock solid.
It really is.
We are fortunate in Southwest Florida. One, we've got a couple Krispy Kremes, but also we've got local.
Oh, you got Bennett's, which is outstanding. I think they're a little pricey.
What is it? What's the track?
The Trackside Donuts. There's nothing better than that place. Not to mention the attitude you get from the staff, because they'll yell. I mean, it's basically like the Soup Nazi. They have no problem yelling at you in there.
Which is fantastic.
Right. I like my donut with an attitude.
Chastise me with my donuts.
Then you got that peace-loving little donuts in Naples is a good spot. Tell you what, we do a donut pretty damn well. Not a lot of bagel shops down here, but we got a lot of donuts.
I agree.
For the better, we go to Madeira Beach in Florida, where Derek Smith was hitting the beach with a metal detector to hand, and a woman reached out to him explaining she had lost her diamond ring in the area. So he set out to find it. He did. Found the sparkler buried in the sand in shallow water, said her name was engraved on the inside of the ring, and estimates it to be worth about $10,000. He returned the ring to the woman, said he's looking for his next big find. And some good coming out of the destruction that happened in Minneapolis with the protesters. Trayvon Ellis had the Fade Factory, his North Minneapolis barbershop, but the shop was burned down last week after a fire was started inside. Firefighters in the city obviously overwhelmed because of all the emergency calls. That by the time they arrived, the barbershop was gone. But a total stranger started a GoFundMe campaign to rebuild the Fade Factory. It has raised more than $117,000, and now Trayvon Ellis plans on rebuilding the shop in the same neighborhood so he can work in the community that he cares about the most. And that is the good, the better, and the best. On today, June the 5th, we're just barely halfway through 2020. Doesn't it seem like it's December?
Wow. Do want to remind folks, particularly if you have a local business and you've just reopened, Fox Sports Radio, proud to be live and local. We work and live in Southwest Florida like you, and we're Gulf Shore strong. And as your business is reopening and trying to get back to normalcy, we want to hear from you. Give us a call, 479-5577. That's 479-5577. And tell us the name and location of your business. Let us know you're back. And you may just hear yourself on the radio one day because, well, we're rooting hard for all of you here in Southwest Florida here at Fox Sports Radio. So that number again, 479-5577 to leave a message and, a little free pub, which let's face it.
Hey,
we could all use a helping hand.
Everyone could use it. I picked up my pie the other day at Dolly's that's open. Serves a fine pie. I did a dance when she gave me a pie. Old Dolly's, and I don't know how old she is. I know her son Randy a little bit, and Randy's older than I am. And it was one of those things that with all this going on, and I walked into Dolly's and I saw her, that I was just like, oh, man, it just put a smile on my face, just seeing her still there and working. And they only had a couple pies in the window. And she's like, honey, what do you want? I said, I'd really like a strawberry rhubarb. And she came out with one, and I did a little dance. And she says, do you want another pie? Because I want to see that dance again.
Well played.
So, of many of the local places, check them out. Spend a little dough. Go have some fun this weekend. And get out.
Phase 2.
We are phase 2, baby.
That's right. And so what does that mean? So restaurants inside now go to 50%.
Outside
100. 100%.
Bars and clubs can open. Right. Basically, we can belly up to the bar, David. It is shot in a beer day in Southwest Florida. Belly up to your local bar because you can sit in a bar stool again next to someone, not with a table in between you.
And I think movie theaters can open at 50%. Think about this. All right. When's the last time? Now, you're not a movie goer.
No.
All right. And you've been very vocal about that. But, you know, it's just a little question for everybody out there. When is the last time you saw a movie?
In the theater. I know for me it was Grown Ups 2.
I mean, I'm guessing no movies have been released here in the last 3 months, so they're just bringing back the same movies that they had the second week of March.
Probably. But I mean, the last movie I saw, my son was not old enough to drive, not even close. He's 21 now.
Wow. I'd say you're not a P1, all right, when it comes to AMC. I'd say they've got a ways to go in order to reach you. Well, you and the wife, it's date night tonight.
Oh, going out with another couple.
Look at
Gonna go out to a restaurant, one of my favorites, eat some food, have a cocktail.
Wow. The rest of us are sitting here going, man, listen to him. Adult conversation.
Yeah.
With other adults.
Right, without my kid around. Babysitter. Big.
Wow. No reason to come home early tonight.
Nope. Pretty fired up. Might even stop somewhere else on the way home, spend some more money.
Might as well.
Looking forward to it. David, good luck with everything today. Enjoy your Quest bar and your grapes.
Boy, you know, that doesn't sound very appealing when you put it that way.
I don't know what else to tell you.
To be honest with you.
Miller and Moulton. Dan Patrick Show is next. Have a great weekend, everyone. We'll be back on Monday right here on Fox Sports Radio. Have a good weekend, David.
Hey, have fun.
Have a good weekend.
Giro, you too. Thanks for everything, my friend. We will talk to you on Monday. Everybody, thanks for listening, and we'll be back, I guess, eventually.
Giro, thanks for everything.